This is the captain. We have a little problem with our entry sequence, so we may experience some slight turbulence and then explode.
Hello and welcome to the Blackdog number 273.
Wow.
There you go. Brilliant. Fantastic. I'm Lee.
I'm not Darren.
I'm not Jim.
And I'm not Elton. And yes, you may have noticed someone's missing. Well, that's because that person is supposed to be on Skype right now. And we've sent him texts and we've sent him all sorts of things. And you know what? 20 minutes later, and he's still not on fucking Skype. So
He's probably on the floor at the moment, covered in wires and cables like C-3PO in the Millennium Falcon, trying to fix the hyperdrive.
Yeah, he is. He's probably sitting there going, "Punch it! Oh, pass me the hydro spanner." So when he turns up, we'll put him back on. I'm sure we'll probably take the piss as well, but it'll probably let's just see how long it is before he arrives.
When he does turn up, yeah. When he does turn up, let's all just stare at him.
Yeah, and point.
Yeah.
And let's see how it goes. So we may have only 3 of us, or we may have 4 of us. We'll see, and you can see the kind of professionalism I'm working with. Anyway, so we're 273 episodes in, and we're going to have a bit of chat, see how everyone's fortnight has been, because we've been away for a fortnight. And we're going to have a shitty superhero and a Profanasaurus.
Yes, indeed.
And then after that, we'll get on down to our film, our Rose-Tinted Specs, which seems to have heralded an unofficial Western month. But there you go. So which will be High Plains Drifter, old Clint coming out of the desert. So let's have a look on Skype, see if he's arrived. Has he arrived? Has he? No. Has he? Fuck.
Has he buggery?
Has he? No fucking chance. So anyway, while we're waiting for him to still turn up, let's see how everyone else's week's been. So let's start with you, Jim. How's your fortnight been, sir?
Changeable, really.
Right.
I thought spring had sprung.
Mm-hmm.
I had a nice walk out with the family in the sunshine in nothing, just a t-shirt, no heavy winter coat or jumper.
Mm-hmm.
Actually got to do stuff in the back garden and tidy it up after winter.
Euphemism.
And start making plans. Yes, start making plans to actually rehole what little back garden I have into something more presentable and useful. And then all abruptly we got snow.
Yeah. Killed everything.
And so while I had a bit of an outdoorsy kind of week, the other week has been mainly staying in. And when I've not been fiddling with podcasts or writing, after your recommendation of the Parapod,
yes,
I didn't start listening to it.
No.
But I did because I realised that Ray Peacock has done many podcasts, so I went back to the start, and so now I've listened to all the Peacock and Gamble podcasts.
All right.
And all the Peacock and Gamble Edinburgh podcasts. I'm just about running out of them now. But I have found it his first podcast, the Ray Peacock Show, and I've got a huge wodge of that stashed away. It's terrible being a completist, but it has been very, very funny.
Yeah. Is it changing your mind towards maybe looking at the Parapod, or do you just think it's just going to wind you up?
It may well wind me up, but I'm more... I suspect I'll be addicted by the time I run out of his back catalogue. But I do highly recommend going back and delving. Although I do owe you a lot of the humour can be very, very, very naughty.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if anyone's heard any, but they did have a section where they did complaints letters, where they'd make up bogus complaints to try and get free stuff out of companies. And this developed into a terribly poor taste section where it was always this woman called Mrs. Fraser writing in and trying to spin some hideous sub-story involving her poor son, Fraser, who got steadily more injured / disabled. And they become more and more offensive as they go on. It made me feel better about some of the stuff we've pulled up. We're just in the foothills of offence, really.
Yeah. We are proper minor leagues. I was going to say there's no Black Dog summit of offence. I think everyone's gone up there first. we're quite low down.
Well, yeah, so that's been a tremendous fun. But so other than that, I've not really doing an awful lot, really. Oh. I was planning to have done a lot more if the weather had held up, but there you go.
Oh, well, fair enough.
So, given the Blackdog, I've probably spared a hideous accident trying to put in a pond. So,
oh, well.
Small mercies and all of that.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed for that, everyone, eh? Right, okay. Well, okay, moving on then. So what about you then, Elton? How's your fortnight been treating you?
Not too bad. It all really happened this weekend. It was my birthday yesterday.
Oh,
and
happy birthday.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
407 again.
Something like that, yeah. Yeah. I'm catching up with you guys, don't worry. I'll get there. I'll get there one day.
How old are you, really?
38.
Oh, that's when your pubes go grey and it all drops off.
Oh, great.
There you go.
Thanks,
Darren,
mate. Yeah.
That's probably where Darren is, actually. He's probably in bits in a curb somewhere.
American History X all over again.
Yeah, just bits and parts and stuff. Actually, wouldn't it be terrible if we're doing all this and it actually turns out that he's had some sort of accident between talking to me and then getting on the cast? Actually, no, it'd be really funny. Sorry, carry on, Elton. He's gone off. Elton? Son of a bitch.
Hello.
Oh, bloody hell.
Bloody, have I got a loose
Gone to
wire?
button moon there.
God sakes. Yeah, you did go a little quiet for the moment there, Elton.
I do apologise.
That's okay, no worries.
Yeah, it was the birthday weekend, so you're all welcome for having the Monday off.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Once again, you're welcome. We popped over to a little village called Lavenham, which I didn't know anything about. It's around about half hour away from where we live at the moment. And it's very picturesque with all the Tudor barns, all very wonky, all over the place. But it also turns out that there's a house there that was used in the film, one of the Harry Potter films, Deathly Hallows.
Ah.
And it was the house, the house wasn't filmed, it was, you'll know more about this, it was CGI'd into the film.
Ah, so they used it like a backplate and then just sort of stuck it into another piece of the set.
Yeah,
like
that's right,
like
yeah.
a picture,
yeah.
like a Photoshop. Like one of those Photoshop things that people do.
Pretty much, yeah. But it's God knows how old it is. It's a beautiful old house, well over £1 million, and just down a side road from down this village. But it was quite cool just walking around, going to a church and looking at the church and finding out how old the church was, and then walking around the village, and then, oh, look, there's the Harry Potter house just down there.
Did you just wander up and down the streets humming the Harry Potter theme?
There was a lot of Americans around there, surprisingly. I think they grow there. That's where they grow.
Yeah, before we ship them back over.
Yeah. There's a man with a butterfly catcher just catching them at the end of the road.
The black top hat.
Yeah, putting holes into ice cream cartons.
What?
So they can breathe.
Oh, right.
Before shipping them back. But yeah, that was cool. And then I had the presents yesterday. What was I doing? I was given a couple of things. I was spoiled by the kids, as per normal. But Amanda got me tickets to go see Mr. Brian Cox in Cambridge.
Oh, nice.
And who's he do the Infinite Monkey Cage with?
Robin Ince.
Robin Ince. Yes, he's comparing it.
Yeah. They do. That's the thing I go to every Christmas. Their Christmas compendium. It's very good.
Yes, well, he'll be doing that in November, so very much looking forward to that. That was very much a big surprise, so I was well chuffed with that, because I do listen to the Infinite Monkey Cage anyway. I've listened to it for a few years now, and it only comes out in certain sections of the year, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like 6-episode bursts, and they come out sort of every 6 months.
Yeah, so I'm hoping this might be one of the podcasts. Might be, might not be, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully he'll bring his own little mountain and have little helicopters flying around him.
Yeah, well, staring up monthly in the sky while waving his hair. Yeah, and trying to ignore how he really didn't have an awful lot to do with sunshine, though he put his name to it.
The git. But yeah, that was pretty much it.
Okay, well, we've been talking for nearly 10 minutes, and still no sign of Darren. So there you go. Maybe he's in lockup.
Shame on you, Darren. Shame on you.
He's not listening.
This is turning to an oral version of Where's Wally?
Yeah, where's a Wally? Find a Wally.
It's a Photoshop.
Oh, look, I found a dog bone, but I can't find Darren.
Yes. Hold on. Where is that twat in a bobble hat? Oh, it wouldn't be him. He wouldn't. No. Anyway. Right. Well, in lieu of him saying his week, and if he turns up, he can actually say his week.
Should we pretend what he did?
Well, the funny thing is, I know some of what he did, because he and I actually did those things together. Who Mrs.
And you're in court next Wednesday.
Yeah, exactly. And we're up before the beak with charges of indecency and public disgrace. Well, I tell you the one thing that we did do, and I'll let him, if he does turn up, he can sort of fill in the blanks. But basically, one thing we did do was go to the Secret Cinema 28 days later.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, now that was interesting. Interesting in a number of ways. Firstly, it was really brilliantly laid out, and we met up with Drew and Tracy and fiendish Dr. Will and Harriet, who's also on the Facebook group, and you're kind of being herded into a quarantine zone, and. Well, I mean, I could go through the whole thing, but essentially what they do is they try and get you essentially drunk and then put you in a live recreation of the film, which is, frankly, fucking terrifying.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, just to give you a sort of general start, you kind of have to dress up in scrubs, which was kind of one of the things I had a problem with, because it ended up costing me an absolute fucking fortune that night. But basically, you're going in, and there's all these military people wandering up and down, and they're bullying you. And as it turned out, if you look at them strangely, or you give them any back chat, thinking that hey, it's just a bit of fun, they take it a bit seriously. And one of the guys actually took me out of the line because he went, "We got a problem," and I'm like, "No." And he goes, "Have we got a problem?" And the next thing I know, I'm being frog marched out of the line of all these people who are all, to be tested. And this guy's looking at me, he's going, "What were you doing?" And I'm like, "I was just putting my phone away." And he's like, "There's no phones allowed in there." And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "We're not going to have a problem. Show me your eyes." And he gets a little torch and he flicks it in my eyes. And it's like, fucking hell, this is getting a bit real. And then all of a sudden he's standing there going, "So, we're not going to have a problem, are we?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "Raise your hands up in the air." So like a dick, I've put my hands up in the air. By now, Darren and Co are all giggling in the line, taking photographs. And then all of a sudden he just goes, "Right." Flicks my hat off and he goes, "Pick your fucking hat up and get back in line." And you're like, "Right, okay. Whoa, here we go." Anyway.
Are you sure this was secret cinema? You hadn't just gone to the local job centre?
Yeah, actually, yeah. And then what I did was I put in my claim for that week's dole money, and it was all good. Anyway, so so they lead you into this sort of open chamber, and in there they sort of say they've got cures for you for the rage, and it's like you buy it, and it's like glowing. Well, it's like a vodka fruit drink, which was really nice. But they're you're knocking it back, thinking, oh, it tastes like umbongo, and actually you're getting like sort of pissed up the fucking wazoo. And then all of a sudden they lead you into a room, and it's all hospital beds, like an aircraft hangar of hospital beds, or at least that's what it looks like. And you lay down, and they say, okay, well, this cure that they've given you is going to make you sleepy, and you're going to be out for a couple of days, and then after that, it'll all be fine. So you go, okay, fine. And as you're laying there, you're all laying there on the bed. There's like about sort of 30 of you, something like that. And we're all lying there. And as you do that, you can hear the guy talking. But it's over the tannoy now. And he goes, just listen to my voice. Just count backwards from 10. And he goes, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. And as he's doing that, the lights are going down. And then finally it goes completely black. And next thing you know, you get a lady come down in a torch, and she starts going, hello, are you there? And it quickly becomes apparent that you've actually been asleep for about a month. And you get led back through this hospital, which has been completely and utterly fucking ruined. There's blood up the walls, there's beds turned over. It's all like, oh, this isn't good. And right away, there's Drew and there's Tracy sort of hanging around with me. And then all of a sudden, they're like, right, okay, just head down this corridor, head to the nearest exit. You go out this corridor, and then all of a sudden, strobe lights start going, and there's fucking rage victims attacking the fences all around you. Basically, Tracy put her fingers and thumbs through my wrist. and at that point I was running along like some really naff manga character, sort of dragging the pair of them along, running along going ah! And it didn't get much better from there. Basically you kind of wander into a church, and you kind of like, oh my god, and it's all backlit, and there's all this smoky light, and there's a cross sitting there, and all this sort of thing. And you're like, right, okay. There's this vicar, and he's standing there, and he's going, "Come on, my child, come on, everyone, come in." And you all sort of encouraged to kneel around him, and he's going, "It is the end of days," look, and all this sort of thing. And he's talking to you, and you suddenly realise it's the church from the film.
Oh dear!
Yeah, exactly. And sure enough, he looks up and he goes, "Look above, look at the light above, there's still the light of God." And as he does that, he goes, "Oh, what's that in my eye?" And within a second, he goes, "Rah, rah," and he fucking started to freak out in the middle of like about 30 people, who all in turn begin to freak out. And it's like, next thing you know, it's like, oh shit, everyone's running, and it's amazing. I mean, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but it's amazing how it really grabs you. And you're kind of running from one set piece to another, including some guy in riot gear bashing back zombies. And even worse is there's a bit where you end up, it's sort of like by a wall of pictures of people who are missing, and you've been encouraged to bring a photo along. So you have to actually leave a photo of your family on this wall, which makes it even more amazing because you're sort of standing there and it's all playing Abide with Me in this kind of sort of sad tones, and you're all standing there sort of putting your photos on, and it's really quite somber. And then all of a sudden out comes another guy spitting blood everywhere, and it's like, fuck, everything, moment's broken, we're all off. Yeah, but it literally takes you through the entire film, and it was amazing. It's really amazing. And then after a while you end up in a base camp, and you get basically fleeced for food, money and everything. I mean, bought a hamburger, 3 drinks, a hamburger, and halloumi fries. And I think that ended up costing me, somewhere in the region of about 35 quid.
You what?
Yeah. Yeah. It was properly expensive. and that you've done £12 in the sort of scrubs, so that's like you've done £45 on top of the £65 ticket. He's like, yeah, I had a good time, but did I have £105 worth of a good time?
Yeah.
Not entirely sure. What else? I'm trying to draw this out now, just in case Darren does come on. I went to a Theremin concert in Bristol.
A what?
A Theremin concert.
Theremin?
Yeah, the...
Yeah. I had a Theremin once,
yeah.
but I sold it.
Did you?
I hadn't touched it for years.
Points to Mr. Moon there. Well done. Fucking hellfire, mate. That's really good. I wish I'd thought of that, actually. The concert... Oh, dear. The concert itself was interesting. I came to the conclusion the theremin isn't a lead instrument. But basically, this lady was supposedly the world's most foremost theremin player. And so she comes on and she does one track straight away. And it's like really nice, like this sort of beautiful sort of Mozart piece, I think it was. And then she proceeds to give us a lecture about how the theremin works, which lasts about 45 minutes. Then she does one track, which was basically a rendition of the 1969 version of Star Trek. So you got this kind of thing going on. And then she goes, "Thank you very much, good night," and then goes off. And it was like, okay, that was that then. But it actually turns out to be the intermission, and she came on with a chamber orchestra, which looked like a sort of Women's Institute sort of Tupperware party had turned up and brought their instruments.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And
Jimmy Page didn't turn up, did he?
Jimmy Page, no. I mean, that would have required sort of something else. But I don't know. I mean, it was like 4 ladies, and they were playing violins and clarinets and all that kind of thing, and that was all cool. But the thing was, the theremin had to be the sort of front and centre. This lady doing the theremin front and centre, and it was like you're listening to all this interesting music from things like Spellbound and Day the Earth Stood Still and Mars Attacks and all that kind of stuff, and Ed Wood, and it's like all that music is all being played really nicely on the violins and everything. And every now and again, they suddenly remember that the theremin's got to be involved in this, and it kind of goes. It's like, yeah, I think I'm done. It all started to sound very, very, very similar very, very quickly.
I'd imagine it's a very unique instrument, but you couldn't use it too much. I can't imagine a whole concert with just that thing.
No,
it'd be
actually, I saw a theremin in concert. I forgot to mention it. I went to see Hawkwind at the Sage in Gateshead. Now, the Sage, if you don't know, is a proper newly built classical concert hall. All proper acoustics, all done out in wood, seated venue. How Hawkwind are playing there, I have fucking no idea. But
snuck in the back.
But they always have, as part of their keyboard and electronics bank, they always have a theremin. But, they're just using it to add some woo bits here and there.
Yeah.
But there's a fucking solo on it,
Yeah.
But that was a good show. They were touring their new album, which is a concept album based on a sci-fi novel by E.M. Forster called The Machine Stops. It's really like it's a novella, because it's out of copyright. You can get it online and LibriVox versions. And I do recommend people track it down because, considering this was written at the start of the 20th century, it is bizarrely and eerily predictive of a lot of things that are familiar. It's set in like a future world where everyone lives underground in their own little apartments, but no one interacts. Everyone does it through screens, through like a telegraph system, and it's a weirdly spooky sort of prediction of the internet and internet living and living through screens.
Right.
And how nothing new's been created, but everyone's just writing reviews of articles about articles, and no one's actually doing anything anymore, just commenting on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So well worth tracking down, and said that Hawkwind. So I mean, a friend of mine, huge Hawkwind fan, who got infected me with it years ago. So, do you want to see Hawkwind play the stage? Oh yeah, well they might die. Better do, yeah. And I did, and I knew that the newer album out. They always do, and I read, they're doing actually a concept album show, and they had a big screens in the backdrop, so it was like kind of like the War of the Worlds stage show. And they have all visuals and custom done animations to fit the songs, and they play an hour-long set, which is the concept album of The Machine Stops, and then an hour of greatest hits. But I didn't realise, I knew that the album was called Machine Stops, but I didn't twig it was the E.M. Foster one until the show started, and I saw this big backdrop light up, and these hexagonal cells, and a screen comes on. This voice going, "The lecture will now begin. Please log in." And I'm going, "Hang on." And as it turned out, I don't believe it. They've done a concept album on this E.M. Foster SF book no bastard knows about. Wow. Well done, boys.
Wow. And will you be covering it for Tomagoria?
I might do. I mean, I've already did. I came across it because I did it when I guested on SFF Audio a couple of years ago, and Jesse, who hosts it, said, "Do you want to come do an Ian Foster novel?" I said, "You what? You wrote a sci-fi novel? What, really?" I said, "Yes, I'll have to see this." But yeah, we might put it on the Tomagoria list because it is genuinely a fascinating little book. Not a long read either, but it's just so full of things that ring true now or have been ripped off by subsequent dystopian SF.
Nice. Cool. Excellent. Right. On Darren Watch, by the way, before I carry on, Darren Watch, Darren has arrived on Skype and has said 5 minutes. Because obviously 5 minutes is what he needs after the 40 minutes late that he already is. But that's fine. We'll give him the 5 minutes. Fucking hell. What else has happened in my week? I had it all written down. Well, there was that Theramin thing. That's all I can think.
Big Theramins solo? No, maybe not.
Theremin solos, no.
Jim just punched me from the side. That was a sucker punch right there.
Yeah, and now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to fill the space with a rendition of "Losing My Religion" on the Theremin.
There was a chap up in Cambridge when I used to work up there who used to play a saw with a screwdriver. And he was entertaining, but I don't imagine going to see him in concert anytime soon. He was quite good, but all he did was just bang a screwdriver onto a saw. Well, that was it.
Not playing it, doing the bendy thing. Look, you play with a violin bow.
Well, he would bend it. He'd sit there and kind of chant.
It's kind of fucked up shit with you on.
Bashing it away. And he was quite good for 2 minutes entertainment. I can't imagine paying £38.60 to go watch him in the Cambridge Corn Exchange.
Nice. No, that's great. Next up will be that guy that sits outside of Eminem's world with a traffic cone going.
That's after one of our meetups, though, isn't it? Surely.
Yeah, actually, yeah, yeah. Oh, by the way, while we're on that subject, I am about to start booking. I am going to book the ship and shovel. Hey! And just for anyone who is listening, who is interested in going, we are provisionally looking at the date of the 10th of September. That is the 10th of September, Blackdog Shindig 2016, a.k.a. let's all just go stand in the pub and just get pissed. So, yes, if you're there, brilliant. And if not, just keep an eye on the Facebook group, and we'll see what happens there. The other thing, obviously, that I did this week, which Darren will invariably bring up once he finally arrives. We've only got like 10 more minutes. Before we review the film, is I went to see Captain America: Civil War, and I know you two guys haven't seen it, so I'll refrain from saying anything too. Oh, shut up, you tart! But long and the short of it is, we will be doing a spoiler cast, me and Darren, when he finally turns up tomorrow.
Good luck with that one.
Yeah, so we'll be doing a spoiler cast probably by Friday afternoon.
I'm on Team Metcalf's side.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's probably at least you guaranteed he'd turn up. The other thing is obviously I am Billy No Mates stuck at home. Carol's gone off to Australia, and she's going to be there for at least 2 weeks. So that's fun. The kids are upstairs in bed, and I'm working from home. And yes, I really am working from home, in case Rob's listening and going, "Oi, get her back to work."
So no Xbox was played this week?
No, actually. Well, actually there was. There was a little bit of Xbox played about 6:30 this afternoon, which the kids wanted to play the revised version of Castle Crashers, which I duly played with them like a good father, because I'm good like that. I honestly didn't play any Fallout at all during my work hours. Absolutely not. Because that would be wrong and immoral. And
isn't that what normally happens on our working from home days? It's, fuck this, I ain't getting dressed.
Well, the problem is I have to get dressed, though, because the thing is I've got to take Lisa to school, which is the first.
That doesn't stop many parents round our way.
Well, it actually, frankly, doesn't stop many parents around our way either.
Yeah, very true.
And
in their Batman onesies.
Oh,
you fucking idiots.
God, why?
Sorry, if you go out in a onesie and pick your kids up from school, drop them off in a onesie, shame on you. You're just one step above the people who wear slippers outside the front door.
There's nothing wrong with wearing slippers outside the front door.
You don't.
If you're just going down the end of the drive to drop some recycling off, that's nothing.
Fine.
Right, okay, as long as
but
that's cool.
If you purchase anything while wearing slippers, woe betide you anywhere near me.
Okay, well that's fair enough. Yeah, if you're wearing slippers in the McDonald's, you've got problems. Though that said, I have once before purchased some food and stuff from a BP station after dropping Darren off, and I drove without any shoes on. So I don't know where that comes on your scale of outrage there, Elton. Oh dear. Anyway, yeah. So Captain America: Civil War. We'll be doing a spoiler cast for that, and in the meantime, that's my fortnight in a nutshell, really. I'm kind of treading water. Is he going to turn up or what? Hold on, let's run an albatross.
There will now be a short intermission.
Albatross! 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 Of course you don't get bloody wafers with it!
So, anyway, we appear to have someone else on the line. Darren?
Hello. Here I am.
Oh, good. So glad you could join us.
Well, I thought I might as well turn up, you know.
Well, it's always handy.
Yeah.
We've just finished everyone's week.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
You think we're joking on that bit?
I've missed Elton's week then, have I?
You have.
That's great. Excellent stuff. I should do this every week. Anyway, so.
Okay.
Great timing, Barnard.
Yeah. I was going to say, this was all a plan, was it? Just to come in
Yes,
35 minutes down the line. So, right. Okay. Well, then, do you want to tell us and the listeners how your week was in like 10 minutes or less? Because we got to move on to shitty superheroes because we just got a schedule, man. Got timing.
Oh, we've got a schedule now.
No, not really. I don't.
We've got adverts and travel to get to.
Yeah.
Oh yes, and the football scores and
yeah,
East 4-4 and
we got
East 5-5.
We got the shipping report.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. My week then. I'll skim through it very quickly. Yes. Went to see Jeff Lynne in concert. Jeff Lynne's ELO in concert at the O2. Fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. Best light show ever seen at any concert, and that is including the Pink Floyd one in '94.
Oh, strong words there.
Very strong words, but trust me, it was something else. It really was. It was great. Loved it.
See, because the bit you missed is that Jim went to a Hawkwind concert, so he may disagree.
There you go. We've both been to concerts this week.
I've been to a Theremin concert, so I may even have something to say about that.
Wonderful. I do think there is a group of people going around trying to spoil shit for me though this week. Because apart from the fact that I really did enjoy the concert, there were 3 drunken twats sat next to us who thought that they could enhance my experience by singing off key to everything that actually came on. So, that made me happy.
I don't know. I thought Elton's singing was pretty good. What do you think, Jim? It was all right, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I just wish you'd brought the theremin.
A Hell's Angel. But there you are.
Nice. Okay.
So, So, after that, what did we do? And I went to see HMS Pinafore as well. Thought I'd get a bit cultured, so
Pinafore.
Me and Laura went off to see that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I thought we were going to see Gilbert O'Sullivan, but we actually went to see Coming by Gilbert and Sullivan. So I'm expecting, Claire, the moment I met you, I swear. And it's not. It's all about sailors on a boat. So, yeah, but it was good, all the same. And let's see, what else? Oh, and the other thing, Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier. Sorry, fucking Civil War. I keep calling it Winter Soldier. No, Civil War.
Yes, which we're going to be doing a cast about tomorrow, aren't we?
We certainly are. But again, this gang of people who are determined to try and spoil shit for me turned up at Civil War.
Nice.
Fucking, I'll tell you, it was like you could tell they were comic book fans. I know them because I am one, and I thought these people would just shut the fuck up or watch the film, right? But imagine every time somebody spoke to you, right, a hooter went off in your ear, like that, really loudly.
I don't need to imagine it. You just did it.
Yeah,
I'm
like that.
deaf.
Every time somebody said something that was slightly humorous, it was like they'd never heard a joke before.
Nah.
I shit you not, right? And they laugh with the same intensity at every single humorous thing.
Yeah, that's we've seen that in other situations, haven't we? Usually fan-based stuff.
Okay. I'll give you a quick example. No spoilers, right?
Yeah.
There is a certain scene where a certain character activates a certain gadget, and it does something.
Yes.
And it's like, ooh, they laughed exactly the same way at that, and we're all sitting there going, "What the fuck are you laughing at?"
Yeah. That's because they're fans. That's why.
Yeah, they needed us to know that they got this stuff. You see, look, I'm a fan. Look at me. Look, yeah. I'm a fan. Oh, by the way, did I tell you I'm a fan?
But that reminds me, I went to the midnight screening of mine, and someone tried to do that and basically tried to be funny. And it was really quite amusing how little tolerance midnight screening people have for that kind of shit.
Did somebody beat the crap out of them? Because I wish they'd been there with the 7 socks full of coins.
Not quite, but there was a rather gruff kind of response because someone as a fight was going on, suddenly from the audience was the words "Martha" was shouted, and then everyone laughed, and then someone else went "Martha," and it just all went silent, and someone went "Shut the fuck up," and it was just that was it.
That's what we want. That's what we want. So, because of this, I am starting we want earphone jacks in the seats of all fucking cinema seats from this point on, please. I'm starting that campaign because I think that's what they should have in cinemas because people just can't be trusted to shut the fuck up. They're either rattling fucking crisp packets or they're just talking, doing their mobile phone shit or laughing uncontrollably at nothing. You know.
So is this the new corner of Darren's Get Off My Lawn section?
This is the this is, you know what grinds my gears? Yeah, it's that. That's me.
Nice.
Darren's what grinds Darren's gears.
Right. Okay.
But I should give a full, barring that, I should give a full opinion of my thoughts on, or of opinion of the film when we do bits. So there we go.
Well, there you go. Brilliant. Yeah, I also covered the 28 Days Later thing as well, mate.
You did? Yeah. Oh, yeah, we had that as well. There you go. That's how special it was. Yeah. I've completely forgotten about it. Excellent.
Just 28 days later, and the mortgage payments have come through for paying for the food and drink.
Oh, they have they? Fantastic. I wait with bated breath as to your opinion that was shared on cast. I shall have to go back and listen to it.
No, you won't.
Or maybe you can tell me after this.
Yeah,
there you go.
Fair enough.
Anyway, that's me done. There you go.
That's you done.
That's in a packet. Yep.
In a nutshell. Brilliant, because you know what? I know for a fact you can't see this bit of paper.
Ah.
Shitty superheroes fly into a wall. Shitty superheroes, they're not cool at all. Great big bunch of losers going nowhere fast, trying to fight bad guys, falling on their ass. Try to tell them stop, but they don't understand that we suffer. Shitty heroes go away. Yeah, yeah.
Right, okay, so new, slightly unfinished shitty superhero jingle, and it introduces us to a new shitty superhero. And this week's shitty superhero is supplied to us by the fiendish Dr. Will Catlin Hallett. And he writes, I need a nap, a superhero submission. Back in the mid-1970s, Marvel introduced us to the mild-mannered artist Paul Same. Paul was a child prodigy, but forced to follow a standardized education of his peers, he often found himself bored and daydreaming, and ultimately an underachiever with a short attention span. This caused problems at home with his demanding parents, and so, combined with his naturally passive nature, Paul developed a tendency to fall asleep in stressful situations as a means of escape. Only in his dreams could he stand up for himself. Years later, living in Cleveland, Paul Same was trying to make a living as an artist. Constant criticism from art critics did not help his ever-worsening narcolepsy. One night, while fast asleep, Paul donned a nightgown and cap, and, taking a Roman candle and speaking in rhyming couplets, he set out onto the streets and started taking down criminals as the vigilante Winky Man. A Winky Man, a vigilante whose identity was so secret even he didn't know it himself. Winky Man, a superhero can be overpowered by a sprinkler system which wakes him up. Something winky this way comes. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Winky Man.
I can't Google this. This is wrong because, you know, this will stay on my record forever if I do this, and I've got a feeling it's going to pull up the wrong kind of fucking search.
Well, worry no more, because I can guarantee you that whoop just tells me that Jim's found something. Or
okay,
Elton's found it.
Let's have a look.
Elton's found it. There you go. Winky Man.
It's the same one I found.
He has a wee willy winky hat. That's wonderful. Not enough people wear them anymore.
Would you wear one of those to bed?
Well, wee Willy Winky hat.
Mm.
If I had matching pajamas, then yeah.
Yeah.
Well, after you have the long night shirt, not pajamas.
Oh, long night shirt and a candle.
Yeah. Apparently, his aliases are Winky Man, aka the Night Shirt Gorilla, or Sleepy.
What?
Night Shirt Gorilla.
The Night Shirt Gorilla?
What does that mean?
I have no idea.
Is that when he lifts it up?
I don't know.
I've got nothing. Hold on.
I need a piss, love.
I don't know, but I feel like the Night Shirt Gorilla is almost leading us straight into Jim Moon's Profanasaurus before we even started. I mean, seriously. His abilities. It says here, his abilities are Paul Same is a skilled painter and sculptor. That's it. Weapons, a Roman candle. Brilliant. There you go. So, yeah.
Do you know? It's like as if Marvel kind of had a bit of a dip in their budget, and this is how Winter Soldier was originally going to turn out. You know, just dressed in a cloth with a fucking handkerchief around his mouth.
Well, yeah, this would have been sort of mid-70s Captain America Winter Soldier, to be honest. Oh,
Winky Soldier. There we go.
Yeah, Captain America Winky Soldier. Well, I can't imagine. The entry doesn't actually say that he's not dead, but it does say that he did feature in Civil War, the comic.
He did?
He fell asleep and, as Winky Man, attacked to Charles Xavier.
Christ.
Don't imagine he did particularly well on that one.
Well, so, let's see. Narcoleptic superhero. Well, maybe there's hope for me yet. Maybe I can live the dream, eh?
Maybe it's you.
Maybe it is.
Is Paul Same an anagram of Darren Barnard? No, sadly not. Maybe Night Shirt Gorilla is, though. You can definitely...
If you Google...
That's my
Winky
Tinder
Man.
name. Hold on, Winky Man. I'm not Googling Winky Man.
I have. I've taken one for the team. And there's lots of people with penises drawn on their faces in markers, Tinky Winky, and someone has drawn a penis down his leg from his shorts.
I can actually see that. I am actually looking at that.
There's Howard the Duck turns up quite a lot as well.
Howard the Duck. I think Howard the Duck was the comic it came from.
Right.
Okay, now, fire.
Winky Man.
Winky Man.
Well, there you go. So that's Winky Man. Thank you very much for that, fiendish Dr. Will. Oh, there's another... Oh, dear. What's been found?
Oh,
No, I'm not sending
treasures?
pictures of Winkies or anything like that. Don't worry.
Okay, fine. Now there's another one with him with his red hat on.
And holding his Roman candle.
Yeah. Oh, dear.
Sorry, I missed the thing. What are his powers? Are they just he can?
He's a painter.
That's it.
That's it.
So again, not a superpower, but a vocation. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Is he a painter as in artistic kind, or does he just do decorating? Is that it?
I think he might be a painter. Apparently, well, this is the number one search on Winky Man.
I don't want to see it.
Oh, God, no.
What?
He's got nothing to do. Oh, all right, fine. Curiosity has got the best of me. This is car crash podcasting right here. What the fuck is this?
Yeah. It's Winky Man.
Oh, my giddy aunt.
Care to describe that for the audience, Down?
It's in my eyes now. This is it. It's going to come back and haunt me at the most inopportune moment. I don't know. What is it?
I don't know. Don't ask me. I just, no idea.
It's just no.
Step away. Step away.
Step away from that now.
I think Winky Man served me in a in the newsagents once.
Right click save. Sorry, what was that?
Bank.
Yeah, bank.
Right. Okay. Well, that was Winky Man. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that, fiendish Dr. Will.
Yeah, cheers, Will.
And and if anybody else would like to supply us with any shitty superheroes, we do have quite a few building up now from the likes of Chris Johnson and Mike and Doreen Kelly and Mark Last. So yeah, but do send them in if you find any. Send them in to blackdog@geekplanetonline.com.
All these people are going on a special list. They really are.
I think after the Google search we've done, I think we're going to end up on a special list. Don't know about anyone else. Right. Okay, well, now it's time to roll out Mr. Jim Moon's Profanasaurus. Roll that jingle.
As much use as tits on a ball. Southern slang. A phrase used to describe a person, place, event, or item in which there is little or no value. Apparently, this phrase was heard a lot by Roland Emmerich when he was pitching Independence Day Resurgence.
Nice, good work.
Pity the fucker didn't listen.
Nice. Sorry to interrupt you there, Jim.
It's all right.
I didn't know there was a second backwash on that one. That's good. Well, thank you very much for that, sir. Good.
My pleasure as always.
Lovely. And yeah, I'm sure we'll get. We're all going to go and see Resurgence, aren't we? I know we say we won't, but we are.
Oh, I will be. Yeah,
we are, aren't we? It's going to be fucking terrible, but we've got to see big things smashing into big things.
Yep.
Elton. Don't you be like that. You fucking watch The Core without irony, you divot.
Okay, then I'll go watch it.
Nice. There you go. Bullied him into it. I wouldn't even attempt to do that with Jim. Not even going to try. But anyway.
I'm far too weak.
You're far too predictable. Dantooine will not make a fine target, but we'll deal with your rebel friends soon enough. You may fire when ready. Sorry, it's been one of those days. Anyway, right. Well, I guess it's over to our film of the week, which is a rose-tinted specs for most people, which is I nearly said Cliff Richards.
Now that would be a very different film.
Cliff Richards, I played Drifter. Clint Eastwood's I played Drifter. Fucking roll the jingle.
This is a rose-tinted specs film.
Some films we watch are oh so shite. Some are out of sight. No complaining, but a smile upon your face. And don't you know, we've got one for you today. Yeah, hey. How you felt when they were new. These movies shone so brightly. They're so pretty, and so it would be a pity if they poo. After watching them today, yeah, hey. Oh, rose-tinted specs, they are the best. These are the films we've loved for so long. Oh, we'll be so wrong. So here's our review, then we'll have feedback from you. There may be some crying too. Has this changed your point of view? Pablo, this ain't my Peruvian dancing powder. This is gravy.
Well, that's great. That's lovely there. Okay, so rose tinted specs, High Plains Drifter, directed by Clint Eastwood. Starring Clint Eastwood, Werner Bloom, Mariana Hill, Cinematography by Bruce Surtees, and it was released on August 22nd, 1973. Had a running time of 105 minutes, and it had a budget of $5.5 million. Anyone want to take a guess how much it made at the box office?
A horseshoe.
Okay. Jim? Darren?
20 million.
Oh, okay. Jim?
200 gallons of red paint.
Well, I think we're all winners here. But Darren's closest with it was 15.7 million.
Ooh.
So not bad for that time. Anyway.
No.
So the production, the whole film started off as a 9-page proposal for the screenplay of High Plains Drifter, which came to Clint Eastwood's attention at Universal. Eastwood liked the story's offbeat quality. Hello?
Hello? Yeah, we're still here.
Yeah, it's all right. Are you moving something around?
I've had to. Sorry.
Furniture?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yep.
Anything
Something
else?
was about to fall over, that's all, so I just had to move something. So, yes.
Right.
It was me.
I know. It's not much of a shock.
I was about to fall over.
It was you. You were about to fall over.
Yep, I do that now. I'm that old. So,
Right. Okay.
I just fall over at random times.
Yeah. What was one of the things we thought might have actually happened when you hadn't turned up?
I fell over, but you were sitting down, Darren.
You're in the curb. Anyway, right. So, back to this. So he was approached by Universal to direct the film. Under a joint production between Malpaso and Universal Pictures, the original High Plains Drifter screenplay was written by Ernest Tidyman, an acclaimed writer who'd won Best Screenplay for The French Connection. Tidyman's screenplay was inspired by the reports of a real-life murder of Kitty Genovese, where the people ignored the killing of the young woman in Queens in 1964. Holes in the plot were filled in with black humour and allegory, and influenced by Sergio Leone. An uncredited rewrite of the script was provided by Dean Reisner, screenwriter of other Eastwood projects. Universal wanted Eastwood to shoot the feature on their own backlog, but Eastwood opted instead to film on location. Eastwood scouted the locations while filming in a pickup truck while driving alone in Oregon, Nevada, and around California. 300 miles from Hollywood, Eastwood had an entire town built on the shores of Mono Lake for the project, as he considered the area highly photogenic. Over 40 technicians and 10 construction workers built the town in 18 days using nearly 150,000 feet of timber. The town of Largo comprised of 14 houses, 2-story hotel, complete buildings rather than facades were built, so that Eastwood could shoot interior scenes on the site. Additional scenes were also filmed in Reno, Nevada's Winnemucca Lake, and California's Inyo National Forest.
I thought you were going to say in your face.
Yeah, in your face. Eastwood filmed High Plains Drifter in sequence, and the film was completed in only 6 weeks, 2 days ahead of the schedule and under budget. Eastwood noted that the graveyard set featured in the film's finale had tombstones reading Sergio Leone and Don Siegel, intended as a humorous tribute to the two directors. The character of Marshall Duggan was played by his stuntman, Buddy Van Horn, a long-time stunt coordinator of Eastwood's, and in order to create some ambiguity as to whether he and the stranger were one and the same. During an interview inside the actor's studio, Eastwood commented that earlier versions of the script made the stranger out to be the dead Marshall's brother, but instead he favoured a less explicit and more supernatural interpretation of the events. However, and exercised the reference, though Italian, Spanish, French and German dubbings of the film restore this thread. Universal released the R-rated film in 1973, and it eventually grossed 15.7 million domestically, blah, 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 blah. It has a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. However, they did have some criticisms. A number of critics thought Eastwood's directing was derivative. Arthur Knight in the Saturday Review remarked that Eastwood had absorbed the approaches of Siegel, Leone, and fused them together in his own paranoid vision of society, and John Landau of Rolling Stones concurred, remarking that his thematic shallowness and verbal archness which is where the film fell apart, yet he expressed the approval of the dramatic scenery and cinematography. Eastwood, reflecting on the film's meaning, indicated that it was just an allegory, a speculation on what happens when they go ahead and kill the sheriff and someone comes back and calls the town's conscience to bear. There's always retribution for your deeds, he said. And New York Times described the movie as part ghost story. And that's about it. So, who has never seen this film before?
Yep.
Okay, well then over to you, Elton. What did you think of High Plains Drifter? Is that you or Darren? Have we been visited by Winky Man?
No, not at all. I'm completely dressed, so don't worry about it.
Nice.
Okay. Going into this, I tried to watch a couple of other westerns involving Clint Eastwood to give me a sort of flavour of what I'm to expect. And I didn't even watch the whole thing. Got halfway through A Fistful of Dollars.
All right.
Turns out High Plains Drifter has pretty much the same beginning as A Fistful of Dollars.
Right.
He walks into town, sees some stuff, and then sees a man making coffins, and then shoots people.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, okay. Right, it's going to be like this, is it? And I just found it very fucking boring. Very fucking boring. The only caveat that came from it was the ghost twist at the end, which I was watching it, and when he was having his little dream flashbacks, thinking, well, how can he be thinking about that man? What? I don't understand. I just wasn't clicking. And then he rode off and then disappeared into the heat haze. And I thought, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
And it made me want to go back and watch it again.
I mean, you didn't twig from the fact that the girl tried to shoot him at point blank range 6 times while he was under the bath.
No, I thought that was fucking magical fucking water. I just thought it was crap shots. That I've written that down about the shots. Now I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, on. I wrote that down saying, well, how the fuck didn't she kill him? And
yeah,
okay, let's get all the crap out of the way. He's a fucking rapist.
Yes.
What a cunt. What
Yes.
a fucking cunt. And all the spineless bastards in that fucking town that he went to. I would rather just see them all mown down. Just wipe out the whole town. It just doesn't deserve to live, because he's walked into town, he's shot 2 or 3 people straight away, and then thought, do you know what? I'm feeling kind of sexy now after I've shot someone right in the forehead. And then he goes and shags her, and then he wants his horse to have a bit as well. Because he's walked out the stable and put the horse in there. And if this was a comedy, it'd be like, oh, hang on, the horse is going to have some as well. Oh dear! But it was just, he's a fucking rapist, and the way that it was shot, he's directing this, and yet he's shooting from below as if to say his victim is on the floor and helpless, and there he is doing his buckle up and. Proudly standing above his conquest. And you think, you dirty fucking cunt. I fucking hate you, you bastard. And then he does it again.
Yep.
To the other lady.
Yep.
And then he just throws a stick of dynamite and blows that shit up. And I couldn't get on board with him. And I couldn't get on board with anyone else in that town because they are such spineless, horrible pricks.
Yeah.
The woman came in and was, is there any men around here that are going to stick up and help me out? And I'm thinking, good on you. There should be some people there to help you out, what he's just done. And they're like, oh, no, you can have anything you want. And everyone's just bowling around him. As if Mike Tyson has just walked in. Mike Tyson comes in and allegedly rapes people, and then everyone's like, "Oh, but it's Mike Tyson. It's all right. He's our friend. He's going to buy us stuff. Brilliant. Let's use and abuse his notoriety." Oh, fuck off, man! You bunch of spineless pricks. Apart from that, I found it very dull, very, very dull. I got very bored, and it just dragged on far too much, and the set pieces were a bit too drawn out. When they've got the horse and carriage driving around and they're trying to shoot at them, I'm thinking, you crazy motherfuckers, you want to drive that thing around, you know you can't shoot at anything, and yet you want someone to shoot at the dolls at the back. Do you honestly want to be driving that? I don't think you do.
No.
Just in case you get taken out. And there he is, just, oh, yeah, I can do it. Bang, bang, bang. Oh, the heads have fallen off. But the scene was just a little bit too long. And I found that with every scene was just a little bit too long.
Yeah.
And I felt I like the idea of a ghost coming back for retribution.
Yeah.
I don't like the style in which it was committed to film, because you're just bigging up a a rapist.
Yeah.
I just didn't like that at all. It bugged me. It bugged the hell out of me.
Okay.
If I can just interject for a minute there. I'm just thinking about the whole sort of like the rape angle here in this film, which is, it's uncomfortable to watch, as I think we all agree. But I mean, you just have to wonder, was it like that back then, the attitude towards women? Were they... Because I could quite believe that it actually was.
The problem with it, though, I mean, to deal with the elephant in the room, because I think we're all going to bring it up, but the thing that really kind of shits in that sort of, times were different back then, is in both cases, and twice in one case, it's always shown that he forces himself onto them. No one does anything to stop them. And on top of that, they're shown to be, well, actually, they just got to warm up, really. They like it, actually. Look at them. Look at the smile on their faces.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's another thing about it as well. Apparently, all the women in that town like it rough, apparently.
Yeah, and that's where it all kind of... That's where it all kind of really loses it. Because if he did it, and I'm not even justifying this, to be honest, but if he did it and it was just like shown to be a horrible thing and show him to be a horrible character, then you kind of could almost see what they were getting at. They didn't need to do it, but you could almost see what they were getting at. But they don't. They just kind of go, well, actually, you know what? Girl just needs a good fucking, that's all it is. And it's just like, no.
So would that be the character of the sheriff that has been shot?
Yeah.
I've got another theory on that. I don't think it is the ghost of the... I don't think it is the ghost of the sheriff. I think it's the actual... I think Clint Eastwood's playing the devil in this. And that's why he does what he does. He's come back to sort of like, these people are sinners. They watch this guy die in the street. And so, hell is supposedly not a very pretty place to be in for people who commit sin.
Oh, yeah.
So, in a way, all the way he treats the women, just the way he treats everybody in the town, to me, I'd say that was Satan.
But then if that's the case, then why would they be shown to be enjoying it? Why would they go that strange straw dogs route?
I can shed some light on this.
Go for it.
In an early, in one of the drafts of the script, Sarah, the second lady, actually leaves with him at the end. And she's the one person who's sort of redeemable. And I get the feeling this sort of scene is a kind of weird, I don't know, if she left with him at the end, it would kind of hang together a bit better. Not necessarily excusable, but also with Callie, the first woman. I mean, you find out later, much later in the film, that effectively she isn't a respectable lady. She is the town whore. She will sleep with anybody, and as the arrows, morals of an alley cat. Now, regarding the Eastwood sort of character, with High Plains Drifter, you have to remember this is coming out of spaghetti western that was the whole angle the Italians took with spaghetti westerns. I recently watched a very long interview with a screenwriter who worked with Leone, and he worked with Mario Bava and a lot of these guys who did all the original spaghetti westerns, called Ernesto Gastaldi. He said with spaghetti westerns, they wanted to bring, to pop the balloon of American myth-making that they saw as being in westerns. Everyone's clean. Everyone's nice. Hey, we're full of pioneer spirit. And they wanted to bring the reality of the West, which was, it was brutal, dirty, filthy, and most of the people were twats. And he said in the spaghetti westerns, he actually said, we only actually did it half real. Because if you did it fully real, everyone would be dead. And you wouldn't have a movie. And High Plains Drifter, I mean, Eastwood, he learnt his chops appearing in those films and made his name appearing with the Sergio Leone trilogy. But this was, his own thing. It was going to be seen by a bigger audience. And Eastwood, he wanted this Western to bring that revisionist spirit in. So I did read up about the whole rape thing. And, it's widely held that Eastwood puts that scene in. So this guy is not a hero. This isn't the man with the no name again. He's playing with that, that this man isn't a hero. It is a very bleak and nihilistic, vision of things.
So you have to see the other films before you see this one then?
Well, it's one of those, this is a film that's a product of its time. It's kind of, when you get a film that does this kind of switch around of an established genre, it's when you see it out of context. And I mean, westerns is a done and dusted bit of cinema history to us. And, it's all jumbled up. But for audiences at the time, things like A Fistful of Dollars and this film, High Plains Drifter, were a real kick in the guts of kind of like, bloody hell, that's because the westerns had got very tired. It was John Wayne firing off 50 billion rounds from his 6-shooter. You know what I mean? No one has a speck of dust on them, and everything's so bloody jolly.
Yeah.
Apparently Eastwood did write to John Wayne and wanted to collaborate with him to do a western, and John Wayne wrote back and told him to fuck off, basically because he hated High Plains Drifter. He said it was a complete attack on the genre he'd become a star in, and he hated everything it did with the western. So he said, "Oh well, bollocks to you," but I mean that's really speaks volume about this movie, and in particular these kind of, these rape sequences are meant to be, alienating.
It does kind of throw you into a bit of a spin as well, because you get the three guys at the beginning who you think, well, they're the bullies. This guy's sorting them out. And it's like you're rooting for Clint Eastwood. And then all of a sudden he does something like that. He takes the girl, brings her into the barn and has his way with her. And it's like, who am I supposed to be rooting for in this movie? Because I can't root for him anymore. Yet he's here to try and right a wrong, but he's actually committing a wrong right there in front of us. So it throws you into that spin. Not actually saying that, I'm not trying to say that rape is a good thing at all. Don't get me wrong. But it's that, as Jim said, it's like this bloke isn't a hero. So automatically you're on the back foot.
It's a good way of shaking up who do you root for, I suppose.
Well, it's the whole film is full of despicable people.
I mean, the problem is, as Jim's rightly pointed out, and I think we're kind of, as Jim rightly pointed out, it's a case of, dispelling the sort of like the status quo. It would be like in modern day, it would be like suddenly having Chris Evans's Captain America turning up as the Punisher, and not being one of those kind of comic book Punishers, but more sort of like, you know, sort of like from you know, sort of like that sort of schlock 70s kind of Punisher, you know, sort of turn up and just kill everyone, cheese wire everyone, and leave them dangling by their own ankles, kind of thing.
Shoot a kid in the face.
Yeah,
there you
exactly,
go.
and just to completely blow away the sort of what you think you know, but there's better ways of doing it than that.
Well, if you're trying to represent how people treated one another back then, as in in the West, I mean, you know, we're talking about an age where they didn't have the sensibilities we've got now, right? Life was pretty much cheap, you know, and so were, you know, certain individuals. It was a terrible time, you know. This was it. It's like you had no real law and order in most of those parts, so people got away with blue murder. It's a interesting sort of study about when there's nobody around to tell you off for doing what you're doing, you know, to put you right. What do you do? Do you stick with, you know, do you do good, or do you just, you know, do you go ahead and let yourself go and just do what the fuck you like?
I mean, for me, it's going to sound so dodgy, but the rape of Callie I can go with, although I think kind of the later reveal that she isn't an upstanding fine woman, she is a woman of no moral character whatsoever, comes a bit too late. But I find the scene with Sarah, although that it's, for the want of a better, it's not as a graphic and as an aggressive scene as the one in the stable. That one's worse because that's the one I feel is unnecessary.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel that was deserved.
No.
Whereas the Callie rape, I think East was trying to perhaps raise an interesting question here, that we're quite fine to see him watch him hang, whip, and gun down bad people. We're fine with that. But if you rape someone as a punishment, that's a problem. And that's an interesting question this film raises, I think, in that context.
I mean, it's an interesting question, but the problem is it's kind of a far more personal violation than, I mean, it sounds weird, but, you know, obviously you kill a man with a bullet from a distance, or you hang someone from a roof while you're sort of like, you're one step removed. There's a kind of a detachedness to it, but something like rape is just so much more fundamentally abhorrent.
It's torture.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's not, you're not, whereas a bullet can, you know, you're ending a person right there and then. They're not suffering, they've gone. They've, you know, and as same with hanging takes a little bit longer unless you do it correct and break the neck. But with something like that, it's, you know, that is as you say, Lee, it is a violation. It's something. It's something you've got to try and, you know, the person who has it inflicted upon them has got to deal with after that as well. You know, how do you recover from that? Yeah. How do you deal with that?
Well, I think, you know, speaking to you guys, especially what Darren just said about he could possibly be the devil. Now, thinking about it, I'd like to think of him as that, because he's painted the town red and he called the place hell, and he's gone in there and raped the woman, and the devil just does what the devil wants to do.
Yeah.
But the thing with the rape is, yes, she might be a prostitute or very loose in that town. Still doesn't make it fucking right.
No.
I don't care. She could be the loosest fucking woman around. As soon as she says no, and she was fucking screaming no, that is fucking wrong.
Yeah.
There's also that line, there's a little exchange between Clint Eastwood's character and someone else. And he says, "What took her so long to get mad?" And the guy says, "Well, it's because you didn't go back for more."
Ugh.
And it's just like, really?
Yeah.
But again, I can believe that was people's attitudes back then. Look at the way that where she comes in and screams at her husband about, you're not going to do anything about this. And he's like, I'm not going to blow the chances of the business going down the pan over hysterics. I'm sitting there. I actually, my mouth was just dropped when I heard that. It is it's a shocking thing to say.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with Elton. I mean, I was kind of well up for following this film all the way through, and then all of a sudden it was just like that happened. I was just like, you know what? I'm almost at that point instantly. I was like, I'm out. But well, anyway, I'll get around to my point of view in a minute. Moving on from that, Jim, what else? What did you think of the film in general?
This was a welcome revisit. I mean, I first saw this years and years ago when I was on a big Clint Eastwood kick, and it's not one I've actually seen for a good. I've got round to rewatching, and like now I know a lot more where it fits into the history of cinema, and I know of the spaghetti westerns and the whole Italian sort of school of filmmaking that emerged from it, and Sergio Leone and all this sort of stuff. So it was very interesting to watch it with that kind of increased sort of knowledge of its context.
Yeah.
And you can really see where he borrowed from Don Siegel and Sergio Leone, and they were the two directors he really studied while he was acting with them. And they were, and Siegel in particular was very much his mentor in going into directing. And I think it is actually, it was a lot slower than I remembered. I remember it being sort of like a more actiony spaghetti western, but actually it's pretty glacial, like the spaghetti westerns are. I mean, I had the same thing of like, it's always kind of shocking when you come back to like a 70s film and you're sort of judging it, and that those rape scenes do jar. The second one bothered me more.
Yeah.
Because I felt that felt really like this. I mean, this is a terrible thing, and unfortunately, though, whether we like it or not, it was very common in 70s movies, and not just shitty exploitation movies. In mainstream movies in the early 70s, it was almost kind of stick in a sex scene, make it a rape. Didn't matter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that whole thing of kind of, I'll force myself on you and then you like it. I mean, that is frighteningly common. It's quite horrendous. You know what I mean? And, this is, if you watch films from this period, you'll run into this an awful lot. I've watched quite a few 70s films in the last few years, and it is I'm getting a bit kind of inured to it almost after, the initial shock of when you go back and see this sort of very casual, rather deplorable, chauvinistic, misogynist attitude. But, it's a feature of films of that time, and it's kind of, there's not a lot we can do about it now.
Yeah.
And so I had to kind of just how far is this going to go? All right, didn't go. It could have been nastier, blah, blah, blah. But it was kind of, the second one in particular was kind of like, oh, come on, that's just gratuitous. You could have had a tender scene there and had a spark of hope.
Yeah.
Because I always felt the Sarah character was kind of the one with the conscience in the town.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of throws that whole, that's going on, looking at it from a sort of like, does this make sense point of view, that whole treatment of her there where he drags her upstairs doesn't make sense if we're talking about an avenging ghost coming back to have a go at the people who stood there and watched. She was the only one in the town that actually tried to get something done. So she shouldn't have had anything done to it. It kind of throws that avenging spirit stuff right out the window.
Yeah, that's what I felt. That's where, for me, I know a lot of people have a problem with the first rape, which I think is more graphic and more unpleasant sort of cinematically. But for me, it's the second one that's sort of thematically damaging.
Yeah.
For that reason, because I felt, she's kind of the innocent in this. She's one of the good, the better people in the town. And,
exactly. She should have got out of that unscathed.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, for me,
because it kind of the Eastwood character. I mean, he gives the sweets to the kids, the blankets to the old guy, and you get that glimmer of kind of righting some wrongs, and the Sarah kind of subplot really screws that up.
I mean, the thing for me is with all of it is it the film itself sort of doesn't seem to give you a focus. I mean, obviously it gives you Eastwood's character, but as Elton rightly points out, it kind of makes everyone so irredeemable that you've really got no interest in seeing how this is playing out. And the more you learn, the worse it becomes. So when like Clint basically rides off when they're expecting to be saved, you kind of think, well, actually, okay, that I get. You know, he's taken all the money, he's taken them for a ride, and then he's basically fucking off and leaving them to it. But I just the whole rape sequence, the whole, you know, the multiple sort of, oh, they just got to warm up to it kind of attitude thing. And I know it's the 70s, and I know it's one of those things that just crops up, and, you know, but in the same way, it happens in Straw Dogs, which was the thing that immediately leapt to my mind, and that got banned for exactly that reason. And what kind of got me in this is I don't quite understand how this one kind of got away with it.
I think it had a special pass because the Westerns were just so popular. And it's that thing as well that it was... Straw Dogs was a contemporary set film by Sam Peckinpah, who didn't have the box office clout of Clint Eastwood.
No, that's fair.
I think, you know, certainly it's kind of with the American ratings board. Your prestige level counts an awful lot for what certificate your film gets and how it gets treated and if it gets cut and all that kind of business. See the documentary. This film is not yet rated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, for me, I'll get around to what I thought about it. I keep wanting to sort of jump in, but anyway, go on. I mean, what about you, Dal? What did you think of this film as overall?
Okay, now I remember seeing this film many thousands of years ago, and it stuck in my mind, the whole thing with like the ghost and the avenging thing. I must have seen it when I was quite young, and I don't remember most of it. I remember key parts of it, and that's what made it stick in my mind as like such a, you know, this is a great film, right? So not actually the whole rape thing not coming to mind. And then it's like I read a post by someone on Facebook. I think it was Anthony James or someone who was watching it. And then he mentioned that, and I'm thinking, really? So, of course, thinking now, oh, Christ, I said that was one of my favourite Westerns. What must people think of me? So let's watch this again and see what this is all about. And it's like the film doesn't even end where I thought it ended, which is where I thought it ended with just Clint Eastwood fucking off.
Yeah.
Right? There's that whole bit that comes after it. So, because I'm sitting there watching the film thinking, you know, the ending doesn't make sense. How would you punish the people who stand by and watch and not punish the actual perpetrators for what they do? But anyway, getting back to watching the film again, it is shocking for when you hear things like, I'm going to teach you a lesson, and then you realise what he's about to do.
Yeah.
You know, up until that point, I was with him. It's like, this is pretty much the standard sort of man with no name. And this came out, I do believe this came out, was it after The Man with No Name? Or was it before?
It was after.
It was after.
Yeah, I mean, Eastwood has said he wanted to make this character different.
Yeah.
Similar but different. And, you know, the accepted critical thing is that rape scene in particular is Clint going, right, here's some big clear blue water between the stranger and the man with no name.
I think what is probably. I mean, the whole act is terrible itself. What happens to that woman? Whether she's, as you say, whether she's, you know, the sort of like the prostitute in the town or not. And she wasn't the prostitute in the town. She just latched on to powerful individuals within there. It's like she was the girlfriend of the main crook, the one that whipped the head guy who whipped the marshal. She was his. She even says so there when they come into town finally. Then she hooked up with the guy who was running the railroad or running the actual mining operation. So, you know, she wasn't really the prostitute. So, but even if she was, it doesn't matter. You know, she got treated fucking shittily.
Yeah.
No matter how sort of like, you know, she stood around and watched with everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was an uncomfortable watch, that. I mean, in general, anything like that is uncomfortable to watch. It did throw the character of Clint Eastwood's avenging angel askew.
Mm.
You know, it's like there are despicable people in this town, but there's a despicable person actually dealing this out.
Yeah.
He's no better than the people that marched into that town and sort of like, you know, whipped the marshal to death. In fact, I would say not better, very much so, but they were actually better people than him for what he's done to the women in that town.
Yeah.
You know, I know they're pretty despicable. They go around, they shoot people and stuff like this, but like you say, it's not torture. They just got the job done, you know. All right, they did whip this bloke to death. You know, they, you know, that took a while to go through, but I don't know. There's just something a bit more. There's something a bit more visceral about the whole. You know, it's just that doesn't. I don't know. That's a lot worse. You know, than what they did. He's worse than those guys.
Yeah,
that he came to take out. So this to me says that that's the devil. That's why I say it's Satan. I know they say it's a ghost, but I mean, look, he's in the bathtub. He doesn't get shot.
No.
Right? There you go. Not once do you see him get sort of like damaged in any way whatsoever.
No.
Right? I mean, all right, he doesn't get into any gunfights. He's standing there on the porch when they're all firing the guns. Does he get hit by any bullets that's coming out of those guns? No, he doesn't.
No.
You know?
Yeah. I mean...
So, again, is he actually corporeal?
No. I mean, well, that's... There's that scene where you see him standing in front of the burning building. And it's kind of done with a sort of double exposure, so it's almost like you can see through him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you can see the stuff behind him.
Well, you see that with the heat haze at the beginning, where he just... I mean, is it the heat haze, or is that him just materialising out of nothing? You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, his character, you know, it gives you 2 seconds of this is the hero, and there's, oh, my God, no, it isn't.
Yeah.
You know? It's pretty... I don't know. There are no heroes in this story apart from that. The one woman who tried to speak up against the marshal getting whipped. That's the only good person in that entire production.
Yeah.
Any of the actual characters on screen have got any lines, it's her.
I mean, but overall, what did you think of the film itself coming away from it, though? I mean, did you think, oh, well, I still like this film, or did you come away just feeling like you just wouldn't want to watch it ever again?
It's not that you do have the difficult bits in there with the sexual assault on both characters, right? That is a big, I mean, that's a big down point on it. I mean, if you look at it another way, that whole thing, as I said before, it's I can see what he's tried to do. You know, it's that whole thing of calling into question, do you still root for this guy after you've seen him do what he does because you know what he's there to do? And you can't really, because I didn't.
No.
After that. I didn't root for him at all. I felt pretty flat towards him after that. It was kind of like, you know, I can't feel... I should feel like he's a hero, but after this, it's like, no, because heroes don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, it's very hard to put into words. It really is. I felt uncomfortable watching it. I really did. It was just, maybe, you know, they didn't, it's like, you can suggest it, but just don't show it on screen.
Which is kind of weird in and of itself, because you're quite happy to have it happen as long as you don't have to face it.
No, it's just
weird.
It's the spectacle of it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, all right, suggest it, all right, but, you know, it's bad enough that you're suggesting it. Do we have to watch it?
Yeah.
You know, we know he's a bad man. You don't need to force it into us anymore. Just make that suggestion.
Pardon the pun.
I get it. So, yeah. Like I say, it's very hard to put into words. It really is.
May I ask, was it with these sort of scenes from the 70s? Was there such vitriol for these scenes, or were people just, oh, you know, it must have happened, so it's part of entertainment, let's just go along with it? Or was there this kick up? I didn't expect me to be like this about these sort of scenes.
Well, funny,
and it's kind of caught me off guard. I've seen Game of Thrones, and it's around you, and yet it doesn't kick off that much.
No, I mean,
the thing is, with these sort of 70s scenes, what sticks in people's craw now is the casualness of it. That's the problem. Whereas, say, Games of Thrones, I mean, people complained about a certain scene in the last series, going, it's horrible, blah, blah, blah. And it's going, yes, it's meant to be.
Yeah.
These people are bad people. This is a bad thing happening. It's not saying it's great. It's a simmer down. You know, whereas you see a scene like this, and particularly the assault on Sarah, that is just gratuitous.
Yeah.
It's almost thrown in for titillation.
Yeah.
That's the problem with it. That you know, and that's a problem. That's, you know, this film isn't that old, but it does show you, as much as we all think the world's going to hell in a handbasket, I think we have made some progress.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Of that fact that these scenes like this now, in a film like this, which is a respectable film, you know, it turns up quite highly placed in lists of classic American movies, of best Westerns ever made. But, you know, you will, if you look online, there's a lot of people who are watching it now are going, fucking hell, that's a bit of a problem, you know. Yes. And it is a problem in the film. You know, it kind of, in a film that plays so much on atmosphere and kind of orchestrating the set pieces and action, and it does feel, it feels clumsily done and it feels unnecessary. And, I mean, this was his first directorial film, and I think it's interesting that, like, 20 odd years later, he essentially remade this as Pale Rider.
Yeah,
and I'll be interested now to watch Pale Rider to compare and contrast, because I wonder, because Pale Rider, when it came out, people say it's good, but it's just High Plains Drifted redone again, and it's not as good. You know, oh, he's a bit old, though. Let him get on with it. But I'm wondering now whether it's kind of an older man's take on the same story and wanting to kind of do things better, right some wrongs, maybe. I don't know. I've not seen Pale Rider for years either, so. But, you know, I will be tracking it down to watch again, because I think that'll be very interesting to put the two together of, you know, the fledgling director and the, you know, more experienced guy, and, you know, film made in a very different climate.
Yeah.
Just to clarify something I said earlier, the bit about, you know, life being cheap and stuff like this, I didn't mean 70s movies in general. I meant actually during that time that the film is supposed to be taking place. This is why it's kind of like that no that taking or showing you how badly people were treated back then. That sort of lack of respect for human life.
Mm.
You know, so in a way, it's kind of trying to be realistic. Whether it was like that, I don't know exactly. But
the thing is, I mean, I suppose get around to my bit, but I mean, it's the thing is, it realistic is one thing, but utterly emotionally devoid is another. There's oh yeah, things were cruel and things are harsh and things are nasty, but in this case, things are just so apathetic to the worst of mankind that you just think, no way, absolutely no way. And I know we're looking at it with our sort of supposedly enlightened 21st century sort of mores and morals, but you look at that and what happens, and you just think, okay, fine. Immediately, you've got there's just no way you're going to justify that. I mean, you can say in the 70s, oh, they had a different outlook on things. But even from a storytelling, from a narrative point of view, the fact that everyone's so utterly apathetic to what Eastwood does in that first 10 minutes of that film is just like, why on earth are you asking me to even invest in this? I want to see all of them just fucking die instantly. I've got no interest in seeing them succeed or fail. I just, right from there. And the fact that Eastwood's character is such a, an amoral asshole, it's just like, I don't get the fact that he's the devil, but I do get the fact that he's vengeance and he's repaying in kind, effectively. Insofar as he sets them up, he basically knocks them down and then walks away and leaves them to their own mess.
If he is vengeance, do you think that what happens to that woman in the barn is justified for what she?
No, it's not. But that's my point. It's not. That's the thing. In the case of, I mean, what Jim was saying, and it's absolutely bang on right, because the whole thing of, throw in a bit of sexual exploitation in there, call it a rape, thanks very much, and we're done. Yes, that was a thing in the 70s, and that is a thing that thankfully doesn't happen as often in the movies now as it did then. And and the thing that kind of gets me, and it goes back to what I was saying before, is he's fucking over everyone in that town by doing something to them, and it's just like, but in the case of the women, he has to go that one step further, and they are the people who are, in fairness, the least culpable in everything that happened in that entire film. So they're just there just to have, essentially they are just characters just there to have that thrust upon them. Now, for the moment, I mean, we've kind of gone over it, and I'm sure that feedbacks will also do the same, because it is quite interesting how quickly it derails the movie conversation, a conversation about how the film was made and what it looked like. I mean, I think it looked lovely as a filmmaking thing. It's very strongly influenced by Leone's and all that kind of thing. Whether or not that's fair to say that anyone was ripping off, because I know there's a couple of websites that say he was ripping off Leone. I don't think that's the case at all. But
he was doing it as a tribute to that filmmaker. But
I mean, as far as it goes, though, I mean, it looks lovely. The script, for what it's worth, is sharp, and Clint gets cool moments. But you only really appreciate those moments if you weren't already coloured in your opinion towards him. So, like when that guy's standing behind him with a knife, and he goes, "You reach for that knife, you're going to look really funny with it sticking out of your ass," and it's just. Things that in any other film you would have said, "Oh, that's quite a cool little slap down from the hero." But at this point, I'm not laughing at it. I'm just going, you're a dick fighting another dick, threatening another dick. And
he's no hero.
No.
Yeah, there are no heroes, and they're all despicable people.
But then,
apart from one person.
But the thing is, despicable people inside a film having despicable things done to them can still be entertaining. You can still end up with a lesser of two evils rooting for someone. But when you get something like this, you just kind of go, wow, okay, you've absolutely wiped everything out.
That's my kind of problem with the movie, sort of generally, aside from the rape thing, is that the revenge feels to me scattershot, rather than focused.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, I get the no heroes thing, and I do like many scenes in the movie and how it plays out, but there's something kind of, when I've been thinking about today, unsatisfying, and it's that scattershot approach to punishing the town. It needs to be really to set up the kind of, two evils versus each other, anti-hero versus villains. You need that revenge to be, laser focused.
Yeah.
And you need kind of the old EC comics thing of the punishment has to fit the crime.
Yeah.
And, you feel kind of, there's quite a few pensioners in that town. You know what I mean? The poor old dears who get turfed out the hotel.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, well, I'm sure they were just at home knitting. You know what I mean? We're not shown them watching the whipping, standing by.
No.
You know what I mean? You sort of feel, well, they're getting a rough deal, really, out of this.
Yeah.
And that kind of, that for me, it kind of, I think it was one of the critics you quoted in the wiki said it was shallow.
Yeah.
A shallow narrative. And that is the problem, I think, for me as well. It kind of, I can get on board with some things, but it's kind of, this doesn't actually, it can't add up in the way it is.
Yeah.
Even if you cut the rape scenes out, the whole revenge on the town feels heavy-handed and seems to disproportionately punish some people more than others, and some of the ones who really deserved it don't really get the bad death.
Yeah,
they should have.
And the other thing is, with him being a ghost, you get that same thing that we would see years and years down the line with the Crow. Sort of like with him essentially being untouchable and unstoppable, the stakes are completely removed. There's no sort of emotional investment insofar as, well, okay, who's going to get out of this situation? Who's going to escape from this situation? What's going to happen? But what you do instead is you get a kind of, well, he's unstoppable, okay, and everyone else is a coward, okay, and that's it. There's no stakes. There's nothing to root for, nothing to actually hold on to. And his revenge, as Jim's just rightly said, it's so scattershot and so random that and kind of esoteric in some ways. I mean, what's the whole thing of making a dinner and setting up? Half the film's about setting up a gag that the bad guys just roll through in about a second and a half. Welcome home. It's like, right, fine. So you've welcomed them home, and you've laid out a big old table with lots of food, and that gets completely ignored. Why? And that's the thing. There's no stakes. There's no sort of rhyme or reason to the revenge, and the final result is kind of one of, okay, so what happened? There are still people around. There are still people in this town. The town's been ruined a bit, and Mordecai's still there, and he was just as much to blame as anyone else. Hiding underneath the hotel and not doing anything, or was
you see an immediate change in his character. The whole sort of I don't know. Is that sort of, he becomes a bully himself.
Yeah.
Once he gets the upper hand. So really, personality-wise, he's no better than the people that were pushing him around in the first place, because the moment he gets someone backing him up.
He basically does exactly the same back to them, which is, you know, which in some ways you say, okay, fair enough. But then on the other hand, you go, well, how come he's now being rewarded and he was just as complicit in the death of that sheriff as anyone else?
Mm.
And again, you know, Eastwood's character kind of comes in and says, "Oh, you know, I'm going to give all these blankets to the Indians and the Native Americans, and I'm going to give all this food and sweets to the Mexicans, give them work and get them something to do." And then they go, "Oh, could we have some of the dinner?" And he goes, "No." And it's like, oh, right. So it only goes so far, this whole helping people out, helping out the underdog. So he's not even invested in that. So that it's just a little too all over the place, even taking away the issue of the fact he's a rapist. I mean, I kind of, in some ways, appreciated it. I didn't enjoy it. I appreciated it. I thought that what it ultimately was kind of interesting. It was kind of deconstructing, you know, something that he would do with Unforgiven, you know, deconstructing that the cowboy mythos. But the way it was done was very naive. Is that probably the way to describe it? Naive?
I would say probably a bit
loose.
Let's see, doing what they did in that. Okay, looking at it from a what point it's trying to make. It was kind of like going, look, we're being different. Look at us, we're being different. Hello, I'm over here, I'm being different. By the way, did you know I'm being different?
Yeah,
that's kind of what it was like. And maybe that was, you know, that was heavy-handed. That's it. It's just like you were using a cruise missile to hammer a nail into a wall. You know, it's that. Well, too much.
You know what? It's funny. I mean, not wishing to bash that dead horse again, but it's almost like it felt just like the whole Superman-Batman film. You know, it's just that whole thing of no subtlety and someone coming along going, okay, we've got to make this different and dark. And then just going, right, okay, well, what will happen is we'll have Batman running around with a gun killing everyone. We'll have Superman not stopping a bomb. We'll have things like that happening. And you go, what? Why? Why are you doing this? Because we're different. And it's like, really? And we're dark and edgy. Ooh. And it's like ham-fisted and no subtlety, and it just comes along and it just kicks over all the sandcastles that have been built up by the genre up until that point. And you stand there looking at it going, right, fine, you have made your mark, but did you make a good film? And to me, that's the problem. It comes in all swinging and punching and trying to do something new and interesting. And at its heart, there is something interesting. It is, you know, as Jim pointed out, it gets remade again as Pale Rider, and I personally would be interested to see what that turned out like, because I've never seen Pale Rider.
Nor have I.
And so, you know, watching that and watching a more mature filmmaker make the same story again, I suspect will be a completely different experience and may even be a far more enjoyable one. But for me right now, coming away from this film, I came away from this film thinking, I'm kind of glad I've reminded myself of it, and I'm kind of glad I've seen it, but I'm not happy with what I watched, if you know what I mean. I appreciate it, but I'm not happy with it. And you know, I mean, I can't say it's a bad film. I can't say it's badly made. I just think it's misguided. I think that's probably the best way of putting it. Misguided. It tries so hard to do something new that it doesn't think of the results, if you know what I mean. But anyway, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm still all over the place with it. At some points, I'm sitting there going, okay, well, I love the sort of parable nature of it, you know, the sort of reap what you sow kind of thing. And then other times I'm sitting there thinking about it, thinking, no, fuck this film. It's just, it's the attack the block thing. It's as soon as you have no one to root for, and even the hero is loathsome on a level that you personally disagree with, there's no way you're going to watch that film for another 2 hours and go, "Yep, I'm glad he succeeded." You're just going to go, "No, thanks." Yeah, I just wish everyone went up in flames. It's that thing, and that's it for me. I mean, again, I'm glad I've watched it. And like I say, I can appreciate it aesthetically, and I can appreciate its place in history, but I can't actually enjoy it as a film. Anyone else got anything else to say before we move on to feedback?
No.
Let's get on to the feedback.
Let's get on to the feedback then.
Now put your hands up, here online, doing real fine. We're doing our podcast thing. It's called Blackdog, it's not like a joke. Is anyone there listening? What do you think of our show? Let us know by MP3 or email. Just get it to us, it ain't no fuss. We'll even read your Twitter rings. Cause if you like us or you hate us, send some feedback in. Gotta geek upon to rates and put some feedback in. If you think my voice is sexy, put some feedback in. Man, we really like it if you put some feedback in.
Right, okay, so feedback for this week. We'll start off this week with feedback from Mr. Gary Madden, Mr. Spock from the good spaceship Blackdog. And he writes, "Hi Plains Drifter. You'll be happy to know that I finally made out of the Bronze Age, though things didn't exactly go the way I'd hoped. The old wizard was willing to let me set me on a path of the treacherous Ensign Grey. So with a lot of hocus pocus, some dancing about in a magic circle, and the smell of burnt hair, we were off. I say we because the old coot managed to send escorts, Sven, Ingvar, and Bjorn, and they have tagged along for the ride, and a fact that will surely play hell with the Prime Directive. Nonetheless, we ended up on a deserted street in what I'm guessing is an American Rust Belt, and I've dropped the boys off at the all-night Clint Eastwood retrospective while I attempt to sort out the details, which seem to be a perfect segue into this week's feedback. My friends, we have entered a world of ill-defined zone known as my childhood. It's an ugly place, consisting mostly of toxic swamps, of public school bullying, and vast deserts of isolation, which are punctuated by the occasional ruins of dashed hopes. In this forlorn place of any refuge, no matter how small, this forlorn place, any refuge, no matter how small, rapidly achieves a stature usually reserved for a holy site. For most of the next month, we'll be spending time in one such refuge, a battered reliquary, known as the Hall of Preteen Father-Son Time, whereby every Clint Eastwood western filmed between 1964 and 1980 is lovingly enshrined. So in my youth, one of the local television stations featured a spaghetti western nearly every one of the Saturday nights, and if that film featured Clint Eastwood, I'd be on the couch with my father with only the light of the faux western sky to illuminate proceedings. We probably watched every western Sergio Leone churned out, father and son riding the bleak landscape with a man with no name as he roamed with only his wits, ambiguous morals, and a 6-gun that never ran out of ammo. We chuckled at the pithy banter and sometimes quoting the best lines back and forth, and when the inevitable commercial brought us back to the modern era, we headed into the kitchen for a bowl of ice cream to wash down the trail dust from our throats. This is how a good set of rose-tinted specs is fashioned, my friends. I remember having seen High Plains Drifter, albeit not as well as next week's film, The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. I suspect it aired less due to the brutal and callously immoral vision of the wandering gunslinger that Eastwood brought to the screen. His character isn't as interested in helping. He is settling a score, even if that means those who weren't part of the scheme to murder the previous sheriff get killed too. Doubtless television censors of the era weren't too comfortable with the R-rated cowboy romp either. Knowing that the film was, at least moderately successful in the box office, I can't help but wonder if the R-rated buzz surrounding modern superhero flicks wasn't being applied to the Western genre in the early 70s. There's a lot of good to be said about Eastwood's handling of High Plains Drifter. He lets the long, slow ride through the shithole that is Largo tell the story of the place. The sin that hovers over the town is revealed in the silent stares of its inhabitants, and the bleakness of the streetscapes let us know that we are entering a dusty corner of hell long before the stranger applies the moniker to the sign outside the city limits. From the moment the stranger arrives, the stakes steadily escalate until it all ends in blood, and in the end, I'm always left wondering whether the stranger is a vengeful ghost of the dead sheriff or a demon come to claim the souls of the guilty. I admit, though, over many years, my specs lost some of the rosiness. I noticed that the editing seemed a bit slapdash, in my opinion. Its jerkiness occasionally gets in the way of the narrative, but that may be an artifact of this being only his second turn in the director's seat. I also feel that Eastwood wanted to pay homage to Sergio Leone films he starred in, but his attempt is a little ham-fisted, and he wound up cribbing scenes like The Undertaker's building coffins in A Few Dollars More, and the bathtub scene in The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. The film was also replayed the death by bullwhip of Largo's sheriff too often for my taste. It's like the Batman franchise. Every time we change perspectives, we really don't need to see the origin story all over again. I also cringed at the rapey 70s macho bullshit that implies all the real man has to do is to show a woman who's boss and she'll go all submissive and be his for the taking. Anyway, blemishes and all, it's a thumbs up from me. Nice choice, fellows, and it was good to see the frayed end of the spaghetti western and the dawn of the serious weird western. Until next week, live long and always hire a killer you can trust, or some twat might have you painting the town red. Gary, Mr. Spock, Madden. Well, thank you very much for that, sir. The roasting specs are very firmly on for him, it seems. Anyone got anything to contribute to that after that feedback? Or not?
It's interesting the point he makes about the parallel, the popularity of the Western and how it was pushed to be darker and grittier and evolved that way. And will we see the same thing going on with the superhero movie?
Yeah.
Because the superhero movies are the 21st equivalent of the Western genre, or certainly are heading in that direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I must admit that's something that did strike me. It's like, if there's every single film for like nearly a decade was basically a Western movie starring Clint Eastwood, then yeah, that's almost exactly the same as every decade for a whole decade, a whole bunch of movies all starring Robert Downey Jr. But yeah, that's interesting. I'll be interested to see if the parallels hold up once the R-rated films really start rolling, because now Deadpool and the new Wolverine and Batman vs. Super Clusterfuck, have kind of really started that happening. I'll be interested to see how it kind of plays out. But anyway, thank you very much for that, Gary. Good feedback, sir. And speak to you again next week, I guess, with Good, the Bad and the Ugly. So, let's move on. And who do you have, Jim?
I have Mr. John Campion.
Aha.
And he writes, "Hello, Lee, Darren, Jim, Elton, and Mr. Crow."
Ah, Mr. Crow.
Ah, cloning.
Where is Mr. Crow these days? There he is.
Oi.
Lazy
Behave.
bastard.
That's enough of that.
Yeah.
Right. We won't have him back again.
No.
Boy, this is a problematic film. Most strikingly, the stranger manages to sexually assault both of the women that live in the town, and the way that this is handled is very troubling. Both succumb to his greater strength and are shown to enjoy the experience once they do, diminishing the horror of the stranger's actions. We could, I guess, read the townsfolk's acceptance of the assaults as a continuation of their inaction during the killing of the marshal, but it sits rather uneasily. The film's attitude to violence troubles me too, as Unforgiven's did. Here, Eastwood has little time for people without a certain personally dangerous level of moral courage. So, not only does the stranger dispatch those who arranged and carried out the killing of the marshal, he also destroys the livelihoods of the people who didn't risk death at the hands of the gang to save him. The strong do not use their strength to protect the weak. In this world, they use it for revenge and punishment. The film does attempt a cop-out in that regard, with the strangers' benevolent treatment of the town's underclass, the Native Americans and the Mexicans, which to me only seems to muddle its message. Carrying the film's point of view to its logical end, you could argue that they are culpable for not standing up to the townsfolk, as the townsfolk are culpable for not standing up to the marshal's killers. I don't think Eastwood as director is as much a stylist as... excuse me. I still don't think Eastwood as director is much of a stylist with the camera, although the shots that bookend the film, the stranger emerges and disappears into the haze, and the beginning's little descent into the town that will become hell both work well. There are also some striking stuff in the burning town. I'd have liked more of a sense of the presence of space and of the isolation of Largo/Hell. I suppose that could have mitigated the story the film wants to tell about the townsfolk, though. I still think it's a shame that the film has those hurdles to get over, because in some ways it's very timely. The question of just what you're willing to give up in return for your security, and how far your enemy's enemy can also be your friend, are both questions raised by the film that seem very topical. The rose-tinted specs have come off for a bit for me for this one. My view now is it's best seen as part of a progression towards his later works. Bip, bip, John.
Thank you very much for that, John. Yes. That's, yeah, I like that feedback. Good stuff. Yeah, well, I mean, what was I going to say? I mean, yeah, he's not much of a stylist, old Eastwood. And, yeah, and as we said before, you know, that whole thing with him and the Native Americans and the Mexicans, you know, just, yeah, it adds that scattershot nature that we were talking about earlier, with the feeling of the action, the vengeance being kind of all over the place. Especially when what he was saying earlier about the sort of destroying the livelihoods of people who didn't want to risk death at the hands of the gang. You know, it's like, he's the bloody sheriff. That was part of the job description, surely. Yeah, but you know, we go back to that, how he handles the girls, and that's just like, back again. But anyway, yeah, I like the idea that, you know, we can look at it as a parable now about what you're willing to give up just to be safe, especially that whole thing of the stranger basically going around and taking everything out the entire, you know, town, just, you know, for the illusion of safety, only to find, hey, guess what? He's gonna fuck off and leave you behind. Yeah, it's rather cool. So, yeah, good feedback, John. Thank you very much for that, sir. And, yes, we look forward to hearing more feedback in the future. So, who's next? Elton, over to you, sir.
Okay, I have Ollie Peters here.
Six claw paw Ollie.
He says, subject is rapier than Bond on heat.
Nice.
Hey, dudes. So, higher plane sleepy dribbleathon it is. 2 weeks isn't enough time to get through this. It's a mystery monocle for me, and I'm no better off from watching it. Not seen many Eastwood films, especially the Western ones. Is he raping all of them? Jesus, this was a snore fest. It's like someone took Blazing Saddles and slowed the tempo right down and edited out all the humour. Not for me, this one, and won't be visiting it again. So, till I can be bothered to do homework, note to self, must pick better ones to choose. Ollie, sent from my iPad, roaming the plains.
Oh, well, thank you very much for that, Ollie. He was kind of appropriate to give it to you, really, Elton, since he seems to share your entire same viewpoint on that one.
Yeah, I totally agree with him, for once in my life. Yeah, it was kind of dull, and it was treading water in the middle. So, yeah, I totally agree with him with that.
Okay. Well, there you go. Well, thank you very much for that, Ollie. And Ollie also does a podcast, which is the Punk Rock Skunk podcast, which you can find on iTunes and I believe Podbean. So do check that out. Right. Okay. Well, let's move on. Darren, who do you have next?
I've got Martin Thompson.
Martin Thompson. Okay.
Indeed. And he sent them titled, You Got Red on Lego. Then he says, "Dear sirs, High Plains Drifter was a first-time watch for me, plus I'm not really a fan of westerns, although to be fair, I haven't really seen that many. At first it seemed like it was going to be following the usual western tropes. A stranger rides into town and is soon pressed into action defending it against a gang of hoodlums, but it soon turns into something more as he takes revenge on the townsfolk. The rape scenes didn't sit that well with me, but overall it was a very enjoyable film. I didn't expect the supernatural element, but it worked well. I also thought Eastwood did a great job as a director. The location near the lake was wonderful too, and I assume that the production team built the whole town from scratch. Surely it must have been shot in chronological order too. It was a small town though, so I wonder how many of these local businesses stayed afloat, as there didn't seem to be much in the way of housing. Cheers, Martin."
Ah, well, thank you very much for that, Martin. And
Indeed.
you are right. Yes, indeed, that was built from scratch and chronologically. So, well,
I'm pretty sure though they didn't build everything completely, because there's one scene where Clint Eastwood is standing in front of a building that you see the curtain go, and you can quite clearly see the sky behind the curtain. So
it's not the blown up hotel though at that point, is it?
No, it's I think he's standing on a porchway or something, giving a speech to him. And you just see the window go, and it's like, that's the sky behind there.
Well, fair enough. I didn't notice that, but yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, thank you very much for that, Martin. Good feedback as always. And now we move on to the next piece of feedback. It's Jack Woodgate. And so Jack has this to say. Dear Lee, Darren, Jim and Elton, one of the standard tropes found in classic westerns is when the hero takes the leading lady in his arms, roughly kisses her, and initially she resists his advances, then succumbs to his, quote, savage charms. High Plains Drifter has the conviction to call it what it is, rape. However, despite the attempts to subvert this old trope, I find that the film falls back into it. In both cases, the victims submit to the stranger's attacks, and whilst actually too graphic, I find myself hold on a sec here. The victims submit to the stranger's attack, and whilst too actually graphic, I'll just read it as it is, I find myself disturbed by the attitudes on display here. With Callie Travers, the first victim, we are meant to view her as just desserts, all part of the stranger's vengeance against the town, just as fleecing the town for free stuff and belittling the sheriff and the mayor are relatively harmless trolling of the cowardly residents of Largo by the super cool Eastwood. When Miss Travers tries to take revenge on the stranger and goes to the sheriff and the businessman for justice, they brush her off. Now, we could trump this up to 19th century attitudes in the town's leaders and their being weak-willed cowardice, were it not for the fact that we are an audience where the audience, were meant to be dismissive also with the comment by the sympathetic character to the dwarf Mordecai. She's just mad you didn't go back for more. Later in the film, she's revealed to have slept with the leader of the band of outlaws, confirming that she's a woman of, quote, low moral virtue anyway. The stranger also, quote, seduces Miss Sarah Belding, the wife of the hotel owner. She is seen in the flashback to have been the only person to try and stop the killing of Marshall Duncan, but was powerless to do so should be seen as more of a moral and sympathetic character. That I agree with. She is initially cold and untrusting of the stranger and threatens him with a pair of scissors. Then he drags her to his room, only to fall into that same old cliché of succumbing to him. Her rape is then seen as just what she needed to give her the strength to leave her chinless wonder of a husband. This film seems to me to attempt to subvert the idea of a Western, as Eastwood did more successfully in Unforgiven, by taking those rose-tinted specks away from how we used to view the Old West. Life is cheap, death is swift, justice is tough, and rape is common. A town of honest, God-fearing people seeking a hero to defend them from a band of outlaws is a pretty standard Western tale, but in this, the townsfolk are hypocrites and actually responsible for the outlaws. However, the hero is still a super cool, sexy badass, loved by the ladies, envied by the men, and takes the bad guys down like Batman, when actually he should be more of a cunt. I don't know what would make this film work for me. Should the stranger be more repulsive? Should there be consequences for him and his actions? I do really want to see more realistic effects of this rape. Do I really want to see more realistic effects of the rape on his victims? Anyway, thanks for listening, Jack Woodgate. Right. Well, thank you for that, Jack. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's the question, isn't it? How far is too far? Do you want to go the other way completely and have it more obvious what's going on? I mean, and have the outcome more sort of brutal? Or do you want to completely hide it behind? This is what I was saying to Darren earlier, which is, do you want it to kind of see it start to happen and then just disappear behind a fire curtain or something? You know, it still is what it is. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to say to that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's everything we've been discussing already, isn't it?
The problem with actually showing what he's done is you're made to sit there and watch it. And it makes it very hard to digest.
I think there's other films that have done that as well, and we've kind of said they didn't have to take it that far. I think we've actually made comment on
but
the level. You know, it's like, if you know it's happening in that film, do you need to see it?
Would we hate him less if he just disappeared behind a stable door and we didn't see anything, but we knew?
No, I wouldn't, because that's it. I know he's done the deed, so it's like still the same effect for me.
But I think what Elton's saying is right. He does it by not being viscerally involved in it, if you know what I mean, by actually having it shoved in your face. Does that somehow lessen the impact and allow you a sort of, I don't know, a get out of jail free ability to empathise?
Yeah, I think it helps that we've actually seen it. I know it sounds fucking horrible, but
yeah,
I personally hate him more for actually sitting through that.
Yeah.
Well, there's that thing of kind of scenes like that. You always end up sort of feeling somehow complicit.
Yeah.
Which, you know, any right thinking person's gorge rising.
Yeah.
I think that the problem with this film isn't so much that it shows it, but it kind of wants to have its cake and eat it.
Yeah.
As I said, kind of, you know, all right, one rape to establish he's not a hero is a bold move. It's subverting the West and blah, blah, blah. But as Jack points out, it is also, with the second one, it's falling back into that kind of, you know, just give her a kiss and she'll like it eventually. And you know what I mean? And it's hitting a different note entirely of that kind of chauvinism, misogyny, you know, call it what you will. And it's kind of one undercuts the other and both add up to, well, as we've heard, big hurdles for people watching the film now.
Yeah, and the other thing is also, I think, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, if you lose the sympathy, you lose the empathy, you lose the character, and that's the end of it. You do have those problems. You do, and you know, you can't. It adds to the scattershot nature. I mean, not wishing to demean what's being said here, but you know, it does go back to the whole thing, the whole scattershot nature of the vengeance, the action on screen, everything. It's just so misdirected that when it tries to change something, it actually ends up, as Jack rightly points out, it ends up falling back into those tropes. It ends up further into the issues, well, further into the cliches and the issues than it was before. And by trying too hard, it's actually gone backwards. And you know, in the case of just give her a kiss and everything will be all right, sort of thing, it's, you know, it just compounds that rather than somehow throws a light on it that you know previously thought, oh yeah, you know, that's fine. Because I mean, even if you think about it, in terms of like things like Blazing Saddles. You know, you're sitting. You know, what's the thing that comes out? Does Slim Pickens actually say? You know, we'll go in there hollering and whooping, and we'll take all the men and we'll kill the men and all that sort of thing. But what about the women? We'll rape the shit out of them. You know, and it's done as a gag, and you kind of, but because it's just kind of a throwaway line gag, it almost either doesn't register or you don't think about it too much. Whereas when it's kind of presented in front of you, plain as day, you're like, oh great, that's terrible. That's fucking awful. But then you end up sort of in a situation where you're having to sit with this guy and carry on watching his actions afterwards and thinking, well, actually, I couldn't give a toss right now. You know, just no, thanks. But anyway, I don't know. I think I'm going over the old discussions right now. If anyone wants to add anything else in, by all means do so. But
well, the thing is, there's no easy answers to this one.
No,
I think the quality of the rest of the film complicates it. I mean, for example, I watched a movie playing along at home with the Strange and Deadly show, which looks at films that were banned sort of as part of the video nasties thing, but an obscure section of them. But it's full of weird films that should have never been on the list. But one we watched, I can't remember what it was called now, but it was bloody awful. It was really just vile rape exploitation of the worst kind.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't actually nasty because it was just too incompetently done, but it was just so sleazy and gratuitous, and it was rape filmed as near pornography.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to be like, you know, people are supposed to be getting off, enjoying watching this. It was just horrible.
Yeah.
And, you know, a film like that, you clear cut, you go, that's a piece of shit made by pieces of shit.
Yeah.
That deserves to be banned. In fact, it deserves to be burned. You know, it's a horrible, horrible film. It's probably the worst film I've ever seen. Utterly offensive on every level. Whereas this has a problematic element, but then there's other stuff going on. It's not a stupid film.
No.
And I think there isn't an easy answer to any of the things we've been talking about. I think we'll always just go around in circles with it. But, you know...
Yeah. No, that's absolutely right. I mean, that is the problem, isn't it? It's just like there's stuff in this film that we probably should be focusing on more, should be discussing more. You know, like whether or not he is ripping off Leone. You know, whether or not there is other stuff going on in. You know, is it really a parable? All these kind of other things, but it just you find there's a complete lack of willingness to do so when you're sitting there thinking, well, why are we discussing this guy? You know, why are we discussing this character when he's thrown so much more under the bus?
Taking the whole his actions in general. I mean, what happens in the film? Do you think it could be a metaphor for how ugly vengeance actually is?
Well, it could be,
you know,
but does it justify what you're seeing perpetrate? See, the thing is, it always comes back to the same problem. Perpetrated on the guys and on the men in there is literally just a case of, oh, we'll burn down your house. Oh, we'll shoot you in the back. We'll do, you know, instantaneous things. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like things which, in the grand scheme of film cinema from the year dot, you know, are kind of just, that's fine. You know, bad guys get shot, bad guys get taken care of, you know, end of story. You know, things get done to bad guys, you know. But then you get this whole thing of, well, okay, but then think about it this way. We're going to torture the women, as you said yourself. And it's like, well, why? Why is it that the men get shot in the back, punched in the face, have a fight, and all this kind of thing? Whereas the women, the only thing you can do to them, you can't kill them. You've just got to torture them. And that's essentially the way to look at it. It's like, why does that? What makes them different? You know, or to put it into a different context. What if it was, you know, the parents of the family would always get killed, but the kids will be left behind and, you know, sold into slavery. You know, why is it that you have to perpetrate a completely different vengeance upon a totally different part of society, and make it almost worse when they're less involved. Does that make sense? Or am I talking a load of old cock goblins?
Well, no, the thing with film villains, they, I can't remember. It might have been Stephen King who coined the term of kind of, one of the appeals in horror films is they set up villains and they're going to die. What do you call a bad death, capital letters, bad death, and it's going to be over the top and gory, and you're not going to be horrified. You'll be cheering when it happens because they deserved it. It's that moralistic kind of, and in many ways this is kind of like one of those stories of the dead comes back to punish the living. It's an EC Comics staple. Yeah. But the problem in this is it's kind of the head three guys who have masterminded, who've been pulling all the strings of the town, who've bullied everybody else. They get off just so lightly. It's like a bullet in the back. Yeah. And it's not enough.
No.
You know what I mean? They should have been hung high or set on fire or drowned in paint. I don't know. But, they needed the vengeance for it to work and be satisfying dramatically. They need that bad death, capital letters, which they didn't get.
Yeah.
And you got far more cruelty, as you say, to people who are less guilty, but not to the same degree.
Yeah, that's it. Well, there you go. Right. Well, hold on. Let's have a look at the feedback. It's over to you, Jim, I think, for the last bit of feedback. Thank you very much again for that, Jack. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, sir. Many good points raised.
Yeah.
Okay, our last written feedbacker is Doreen Kelly.
Okay.
And she writes, I've never much liked Westerns, never got through many. They're often so slow. High Plains Drifter was slow and pretty depressing. That was going to be the sum of my feedback, along with a comment on needing Y chromosomes to get Clint's respect and help. But then the end left me with a quite satisfying chill. Wish it wasn't so near bedtime. Thanks, Doreen.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much for that, Doreen. Yeah, good feedback. Okay, interesting. Right, well, that's the written feedback. Thank you very much to everyone who's written in. Sorry we're going over the same old subjects again and again, but I think, it's kind of one of those things, isn't it? So, we're moving on to our MP3 feedback, and our first bit of MP3 feedback is from the Orgs. Yep, this is Pete and Anne-Marie, and let's hear what they have to say about High Plains Drifter.
Hello. We watched High Plains Drifter.
Yes, that was a weird one.
It was a bit odd, wasn't it?
Yes, I mean, most of the Clint Eastwood westerns are odd in one way or another, but this was extremely odd.
Well, I think you were supposed to think at the end that he was the ghost of the guy who'd been whipped to death, weren't you?
Ooh.
Even though he didn't actually look like him.
No, curiously.
Yeah.
So that was kind of weird. And the fact that at no point was he under any threat whatsoever. I mean, he was literally shot 3 times by that woman at one point and in the bath and somehow managed to survive. It's like, okay, so why should we be worried about him?
Yeah, well, maybe he survived because he was a ghost.
Ghost, well, yeah, but then it's like...
I don't know.
Weird.
Very weird, because if he's a ghost, how was he managing to shoot other people?
Or indeed shag other people, for that matter.
Yeah.
I mean, the sexual politics of this is very dodgy, isn't it?
And it's also really not clear whether he did actually rape that woman, or whether she wanted to have sex with him, given the way that she approached him. She deliberately bashed into him, and then
weird,
it was all just, I didn't understand it, because then she seemed to be willingly in bed with him later.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah,
and
yucky.
It wasn't nice. I'm not trying to claim any of it was nice, but it was confusing.
Yeah.
It wasn't straightforward.
He's kind of playing the same character as he is the Man with No Name character out of the Spaghetti Western, so you're kind of rooting for him for that reason. But the difference is in the Spaghetti Westerns, he's a vulnerable character. He usually gets beaten up at some point or other.
Yeah.
So there's a chance that he might not, see the film through. Whereas in this, he's just like Mr. Ghosty. He's going to win all the time, chap. Blooming weird.
And it's like, why did he paint the town red? My brain just went to a Blazing Saddles place.
Well, erecting the false village.
Yeah. It was just very, very strange. And if I wasn't thinking of Blazing Saddles, I was thinking of Unforgiven.
Mm-hmm. Which, again, it's not anywhere near as good as. So, yeah. No, an old one, that one.
Yeah, I'm not saying I disliked it.
It was all right,
but I can't say I liked it either.
I wouldn't be bothered about watching it again, I don't think.
I just think it was odd.
Yeah. A strange Western, that one. Very strange.
Yeah.
Cheerio, bye.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, well, there you go. It's a bit weird. Yeah, well, thank you very much for that, guys. Yes, it is a bit weird indeed. I think we've kind of walked around the weirdness a bit. If you want to hear more of Anne-Marie and Pete, you can hear them on the Borgcast every week at Geek Planet Online, which is borgcast.geekplanetonline.com. You can also hear them on iTunes, and you can also hear Pete with me and Andy Plastides on Space Doc Jury, which is spacedoc.geekplanetonline.com, where we talk about spaceships, and Broadcast talks about Star Trek. So, all good. Anyway, so thank you very much for that, guys. Yeah, weird one. Yeah, I think that's putting it mildly. So, let's move on. Thank you again. To the next piece of feedback. The next piece of feedback is Will, evil, fiendish Dr. Will, and Zarish. So let's hear what they have to say about High Plains Drifter.
Good evening, Blackdog.
Good evening.
So, we're here to talk about High Plains Drifter tonight, and I have to say that, given that it's a Western, which I don't normally like, I actually really quite enjoyed this film. One major proviso, but that aside, I thought this was actually very good.
And I had a really nice time. It's very nostalgic for me because I used to spend a lot of time with my dad when I was very small watching Westerns. That was his great film thing. So with books it was sci-fi, and with films it was Westerns. So this was a little bit of a return to home for me.
Yes, I think my history, I saw them very occasionally as a young child, but not very often, and never really grew to love them. So it's nice to watch. It was nice watching it with you, with that in mind.
Technically, there's kind of a lot wrong with this film. You can tell that the town hasn't grown organically. The wood is too fresh.
It was very new.
It was exceptionally new, and I mean, I know he was a stickler for coming in on time and under budget, but it literally looked like somebody had put it up in 2 weeks. And I was just looking at the film notes, and they built it in 18 days.
That's impressive. Yeah,
it is impressive, but it shows.
And it shows, yes.
Even when they're pulling the barn apart, you can tell that that's fresh timber.
Yeah.
That man fairly shoddily built. So, things like that were wrong. The when he rides into town, some of the guys are sitting outside one of the shops, apparently having their siesta in the full noonday sun, which no one would do.
Yeah.
And when he parks the horse and then turns around and walks back up the road, they're in shade.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff, which automatically you would think, oh, that's a glaring error. Now, I think that happened quite a lot. And things like, everyone is such a spectacularly shit marksman. And doesn't change. Given the setting, they probably all would have been good with a gun. So that was, but it didn't matter. Somehow it all sort of hung together. And
it was an Imperial Stormtrooper training camp.
Just everybody fucking misses everything.
Yeah.
Apart from our hero, the rapist.
And there's the big provisos.
Yeah. Go on then.
So, yeah, I kind of really wanted to like the character of the stranger, and I think I loved the surly nature. I loved the fact he didn't give a shit about any of the town people. I loved the fact he was just wandering around doing his own thing. I hated the rape. That was a big problem for me.
2 of them.
3 of them, I guess. Yeah. And it was a problem. And I guess at one level you need to think about it in terms of the era this was filmed, and to accept that this was...
For the 70s, it's in context.
In context, yes.
But, of course, for us, it's what feeds into the issues that we're having now.
Correct. It's never going to be something that I'm happy with.
No, it didn't create it. It was already there, but it kind of condones it. So yeah, just going back to what I was saying before, it's not a typical Western, but it contains so many of the things that would make it a typical Western. There were a couple of tropes I wanted to mention. The badass trope, which is Clint Eastwood. The battle amongst the flames, that's pretty common in Westerns. The book ending of him coming in through the heat haze and leaving through the heat haze, which I will come back to because I want to talk about the cinematography. Apathetic citizens.
Yeah.
The sort of chaotic evil of the bad guys.
Yes, they are fully evil. There's no redeeming features of them.
But the chaos is a big part of that.
Yeah.
So, having a swig of whiskey and then throwing the bottle across the room. It's
kicking
just
the picnic
pointless.
tables over as they walk into the town.
Yeah. Fake things, so the dynamite that didn't go off. There's a lot of I did what I had to do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, coming out in favour of the underdog. So giving the blanket and the sweets to the Indians after they've just been called trash by the shopkeeper, and then when the Mexicans ask if they can come to the fiesta, and he says no. So that kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's a lot. The whole revenge thing. Sociopathic hero, I guess, is another one.
Yeah.
Stranger rides into town.
Yeah.
Kills 3 people, rapes girl, is the good guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
Yes.
So then that book ending, the coming in through the heat haze and the going out through the heat haze, it's so nicely handled by Bruce Surtees. I think he's quite an underrated cinematographer because people think that he was sort of very influenced by Sergio Leone, and I don't. Yeah, he probably was. I think they probably all fed off each other because it was a very small community then. But I also think that's unfair to Bruce Surtees because his career started a long time before that, the Dollars trilogy. And also, his dad was a cinematographer. So he was learning his craft before he was learning his craft. So I think the whole Sergio Leone thing is, yes, great, pick up influences, but I don't think that it influenced him. And I think it's unfair to say that to him, because he really is quite superb.
It's more the influences just in the same way that you are influenced by all of your peers as you go through life.
Absolutely. And both he and his father won an Oscar for cinematography. So that's,
okay, cool.
Quite nice. Anyway, anything you've missed?
No, I think, as I say, I was just pleasantly surprised that I actually really enjoyed it. I was coming to it expecting to feel almost the same way I did about Unforgiven, which I really didn't enjoy, and actually this was really good. So,
yeah, no, it was good.
Cool. Well, till next time then, guys. Take care. Bye.
Right, thank you very much for that, guys. Cool. So they enjoyed it. That was good. Well, obviously skipping around the rape thing because I think we've talked that to death. The one thing I was going to say with Bruce Surtees, I never really subscribed to his whole ripping off Leone thing. I always thought that was more to do with basically he's a very good cinematographer being told by a very naive director who's been working with lots of with Leone and that kind of thing, sort of saying, well, this is what I want shot, please shoot it like this. Yeah. because Surtees worked on was a cinematographer for things like Play Misty for me, Dirty Harry, and then would later go on to things like Outlaw Josie Wales, The Shootist, and things like Escape from Alcatraz, Firefox, and lots of Beverly Hills Cop, Power Rider. I mean, he's an accomplished cinematographer. I think with cinematographers, they can only do so much. They can make things look really nice, and they can frame things really nice, and they can advise a director. But if a director wants things to go like Leone, then can't really do much more than that. Can't really keep having a fight with a director on stage. Anyway, but thank you very much for the feedback. I'm glad you liked it, and like I say, I mean, I think it's an interesting film. Just the problem is, as you know, what it sounded like with Will. You know, it's a little hard to get around that whole big elephant in the room, which is, hey, guess what? You know, the hero's the rapist. Actually, Zarish brought that up, so yeah, can't really get around that too easily. Right, but thank you very much, guys. Thank you for your feedback as always, and we'll listen to more when it arrives. Thank you very much. So let's move on to our last piece of MP3 feedback, which is of course Drew and Tracy. Tracy, who obviously, you know, basically caused me major tendon damage in my arm after the 28 days later thing, but you know, I'm not holding that against her. Anyway, so let's hear what they have to say about High Plains Drifter.
So I had to really convince you to watch this because you was absolutely dead against watching a Western, but then about 40 minutes in, when we stopped to get a beer, I was like, you're starting to enjoy this, aren't you?
I was like, yes.
I'm not to cut to the chase, but so what did you think of it by the end?
I actually quite enjoyed this.
Yeah, it was really good.
It was one of them ones where it was quite slow paced.
It was, yes.
And I did start to kind of get a little bit lose interest sort of halfway through, but then I kind of picked it up again. But yeah, I mean, I had no interest in watching this whatsoever, and when you said, oh, we're going to watch this today, I kind of found excuses to kind of, do things around the house to kind of, extend the time. But yeah, no, it was all right.
And it was also a mystery monocle for us, wasn't it? We've
never seen this before, ever. No, I've never seen it.
I really enjoyed it. Really thought it was good.
Did you?
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, it was great.
It's a bit weird though, like in all westerns, right? In a town of no more than 50 people, they've always got like an undertaker.
Yeah, it's the troops, isn't it? For western troops, the undertaker, the sheriff, all that. But
it was nice, finally, in a western, to see them being able to get a beer instead of just having to drink
whiskey.
Yeah, exactly, whiskey all the time.
Clint Eastwood is a badass, isn't he?
Oh, but he's a very nice looking badass.
You know, it was times in this, like, you know, when he first of all, he killed the three guys who were like bullies, and he's like, "Oh, excellent! He's cool." And then, like, he forced himself on the woman.
Yeah, that
was
a bit.
Like,
that's a bit like hardcore.
Exactly, and then like the when he gave the sweets to the Native American kids and the blankets, and he's like, "Yeah, that's good." And then he just started taking the Mickey with all the requests. It just kept going from like to good to bad. But then the more you learnt about the town and like how actually no one is like good.
But at the end, you kind of understood it. But I don't think he was taking the mickey. He was kind of given the freedom of the city. And
he was pushing people. Look at when the Mexicans were pulling down the barn and all that, like, and just every time. He was really overstepping the mark.
Yeah. So $8.50 to buy the whole town around.
That'd get about a pint in the Imperial.
Well, I was just thinking last night at Secret Cinema, you couldn't even buy a beer for that, could you? That was like taking a piss. I want to go and live there. So when they were practicing shooting the dummies in the back of the trailer, whatever you like, so you've got like these townsfolk who don't really know how to do gun battle.
Don't know which end of a rifle is the shooty end.
Targeting, right? Yeah. These three dummies on the back of a truck with three live people driving it who've got absolutely no kind of protection on them.
There's no way you'd be driving that.
That's just, I said to the time, that's just crazy. The only thing else I was going to say is that this town is full of corrupt, yellow-bellied bastards.
Yes, yeah.
They were all a bit wrong, weren't they? They all had their kind of
no one was good in this,
secrets,
was there?
No, not
nobody. And they all really got their just desserts, didn't they? Because the town still got wrecked, and a lot of them got killed, and that. I mean, apart from Clint Eastwood, but then what was he? Was he? I take it was the ghost, wasn't he?
This at the end, I was like, "Oh, what?"
Yeah,
because I just didn't get it. But then
when he disappeared,
it kind of made sense at the end.
So he is the ghost of the what's his name?
Jim
Duncan, is that something?
I don't know. I can't remember now. I'll have to watch it again. Anyway, this was quite a good film. It's better than I'd anticipated.
Very enjoyable.
Not quite sure I'm going to enjoy the rest of the westerns, but we'll give them a go.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, after this one, watch them and try and take something from them.
I think you're not going to let me, so I think I'll have to.
Yes.
Anyway, let's leave it there.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much for that. Another positive note to end on. There you go. There you go. That's good. I'm glad they liked it. Cool. Cool. Well, I think we've done our bit, haven't we? So I'm glad they did. So thank you very much for that, Tracy. Thank you very much for that, Drew. And yes, $8.50 wouldn't have even got you a sniff of the bottle out of a drink at the Secret Cinema. No. If you were lucky, they might have let you lick the bar where the bun was sitting on for $8.50. But anyway, yeah, that's neither here nor there. We've been good with the Secret Cinema. I wasn't too negative about it. I really enjoyed it, but yeah, I don't think I'll be doing another. Cool. Well, that's it then. So thank you very much for that, guys. Thank you to everyone who's written in. Thank you to everyone who's listened up to this point, and thank you to everyone who's sent in MP3 feedback. It's all been great. Thank you very much indeed. And so that wraps up High Plains Drifter, and now it's time to move on to our next film. Our next film is, basically it's one of the ones that's always regarded as the classic Western. And it also, unsurprisingly, stars Clint Eastwood. So let's see if any of the old stuff we saw in this starts cropping out in the next one. It's a Sergio Leone movie. It's one of the classic spaghetti westerns, and it is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Probably with one of the most iconic soundtracks ever. I can't imagine anyone in the sort of mid-70s, early 80s wasn't walking around when they were pretending to be cowboys going, or didn't do the but anyway, so who has seen this film?
Oh, many thousands of years ago.
Yes.
It's the last time I saw it, but I do remember enjoying it.
Right, okay, cool. Looking forward to watching it this time?
Yeah, can I just ask, does anybody know, is this the film that's got that line, are you laughing at my horse? He don't like you laughing. Is that the one?
I can't remember, I'll be honest with you.
Oh, I can't either, unfortunately.
It's probably that or Outlaw Josie Wales or something like that.
I think it might be. But we'll find out, won't we? We'll all be.
Oh, we certainly will, yeah.
Yeah, cool. What about you, Elton? Have you seen this?
No, I've never seen this one, no.
Okay. Jim?
Yes, I've seen. This is quite an important film in my growing up.
Oh yeah.
Because when I grew up in the early 70s, it seemed like every other film, at least, if not 2 out of 3 films shown on TV, were bloody westerns. And being a kid interested in monsters and spaceships, this stuck in my craw.
Yeah.
And although when I was quite, little, played cowboys in India, I got to a certain age and it's that's rubbish. That's kind of my dad's into his westerns. I want spaceships, I want monsters, I want robots.
Yeah.
Wow. So, and you always see these titles. Oh, Warlock. Oh, it's a bloody western. Race with the Devil. Oh, it's a bloody western. And John Wayne died as well, and the BBC showed a seemingly never-ending season of John Wayne films. Oh, God, I'm glad he's dead. Someone stopped him. I think it was 14 or 15. I had a really bad bout with tonsillitis. Burning up in bed, and as I was ill, I was allowed to have the portable TV in my room.
Yeah.
And this was The Good, the Bad, the Ugly was on about 10 o'clock, but as I was, had been off my head all day with a fever, I was clearly not going to school the next day. I was allowed to sit up in bed and watch it on this portable TV. And so having a fever, it was just I was there in that film, in the heat and the dust, and it really changed my opinions on westerns, and it got me into Clint Eastwood movies and into spaghetti westerns, and actually, turned out to be my gateway into Italian cinema. So
nice.
I have very fond memories of that, seeing it. I mean, the rose-tinted specs aren't going to come up that much because I've seen it a few times in the years gone past, and obviously it never compares to watching it in the steeps of a fever.
Yeah.
But it's I still think it's a great movie, and certainly at that age, what I really took to it about it was the dirt and the grime and that seeing the underside of the West, which you didn't see in John Wayne films and bloody Hopalong Cassidy and all that horse shit.
Yeah.
But you know, so
cool.
So I'm looking forward to. I've not seen it for a few years, so I'm looking forward to revisiting it in spin sharp crikey vision.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I at one point I watched this religiously. There was a whole slew of westerns, as you probably at the same time, Western season on BBC Two, and this came on and. My dad recorded it, I remember, or I recorded it, or someone, I can't remember who it was, but I remember we had to use the longest tape. We had to use a C180, a Betamax C180, because this thing was so blooming long. I think it is like 180 minutes long, isn't it? Because it literally, I remember having it and watching it, and it always gets towards the last showdown in that sort of cemetery arena area. Which is done with the watch, the ding 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 ding, 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 and which is an amazing scene. And I always remember looking over at the tape because you could see through to the tape deck below, and like they only had a little bit more of the tape left, and it was kind of really wearing down. And it was like, oh no, I really shouldn't have started recording before the film started. You know, so you got a little bit of BBC introduction kind of, no, blah, 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 and you're like, no, I could do with like that 10 seconds worth of extra tape. Yeah, so, but no, got to see it, and then it kind of literally ended, the credits started to roll, and the tape just goes clunk, rewind. So I must admit, I'm looking forward to watching it, but it is a bloody long film, I remember that much. It's proper epic. But the score is amazing. The score on this is just astoundingly good. But so I'm really looking forward to this one, and hopefully it'll be 100% less rapes. So allow us to discuss something else. Oh dear. So that's it. So if you would like to watch and take part in the cast, and send in feedback about Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, send your feedback into blackdog@geekplanetonline.com. Get involved on the Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/the Blackdog Podcast, and you can find Jim's wonderfulness at
hypnagoria.com, Geek Planet Online, Stitcher, or on iTunes.
Fantastic. And concluding the Mummy thing, aren't you?
Yes, the last episode for now has gone out for that.
Yeah.
Trying to think what the next one is. I think it's another Tomagoria net coming up next.
That's cool.
On
Excellent.
Renee Knight's Disclaimer, if I remember correctly.
Nice.
Yes, I think that's the right net. The next episode coming.
Oh, there you
Perils of working several weeks in advance. It's kind of like time travel.
Yeah, tell me about it. Space Dock's exactly the same. I think we're booked up to the end of May. Anyway, and what about you, Elton? Where can we find your fantastic wares?
Okay, at the moment, I have an episode on Shonky Lab, which is you can find that at shonkylab.rogue2.com. The latest episode is about sports events. Now, don't be put off. There are some geeky stuff in there, so it should be good. And also, we're recording on the 5th of May, talking about moving house. So please pop along and join us on the Mixler. All the links can be found on shonkylab.rogue2.com.
Brilliant. Okay, and you can hear me and Pete and Andy on Space Dock Jury, which is spacedock.geekplanetonline.com. And we're talking shit about musical themes for spaceships at the moment.
Very fun episode.
I was listening to that today.
Yeah, it did kind of go off the rails quite early. It started off as a Bond theme, and it just kind of went wrong. We realised there was how long can we talk about a space shuttle with a gun on the front? Okay, not very long. Right, goodbye. Let's do something else. So, anyway, that's it. Thank you very much for listening. Do send in feedback for Good, Bad, and the Ugly. And we'll speak to you all next week. Until then, take care. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
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 Ta-da.
No, I like it in here.